afternoon everyone, Kalla here, welcome to my live stream, glad you could make it today. So today, we're back to Great Ace Attorney 2, and back to the third case, and we're about on investigation part 1, I believe. We're still initially investigating. We're about to enter another great deduction. So, hello Nick, it's going fine. And let's get into what Sholmes thinks is going on. To begin with, we must ask ourselves what exactly is afoot here in this museum. About to debunk a great deduction, indeed. Indeed. No, correct. Course correct. Ever so slightly. The answer is revealed by the bundle of banknotes protruding so helpfully from your bag. Yeah, that's not where you put money. Fall out. In my estimation, some £200. That's a lot of money. I mean, it's a lot of money to be carrying around now, let alone in Victorian times. That is all my own money. Apologies for the attempt at a French accent today. Guess you did forget to brush up on French and stuff this week. That would be me. So what does this large sum of money reveal? Not as much as the involuntary glance you cast, it would seem, Madame Two Spells. Yes, the answer lies where your eyes now fall. The significance of the £200 is revealed by that public notice. No, I think it might be revealed by that guy who may or may not be dead. Waxwork for sale. Your business has hit hard times, it would seem. In short, you sold the infamous killer, the centerpiece of your special exhibit, for the sum of £200. No one! Now, let us explore the next curiosity with which you are presented. I still have some time there with the French influence in this case. Yeah, but at least in book 5 of Twisted Wonderland, it'll be voiced, and I won't have to do it. I only need to be able to understand the French then, which is far easier. I was always far better at reading French than anything else regarding it. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Unfortunately, madame, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the £200. Is that a £20 note on the top? Looks like it says £20. Right, I think in terms, in my case, it's like reading I'm best at, then listening, then speaking, and then yeah, writing is I think at the bottom. It would appear that you twisted this gentleman around your little finger most effectively. What are you suggesting? he rashly agreed to purchase the waxwork for the sum of £200. Only when he came to hand the money over did it occur to him what an extortionate amount he was paying. But the money was no longer in his hands. And the result, the scene we see before us. He collapsed in shock. Yes, the killer in the special exhibits fetched a killer price. You see, the problem with that deduction, Sholmes, is that if he only just bought it and collapsed from the shock of how much it cost him, then why is the waxwork killer already gone? We can only pray that the gentleman's dreams are not plagued with regret. Topic 1, waxwork fate sold for cash. Topic 2, waxwork location. Okay, that was what I was just asking, so... The question that arises then is, what has become of the waxwork that changed hands? Let us consider that problem for a moment. You cannot possibly... What immediately strikes me about this conundrum is the young man standing over there. Isn't that a waxwork? Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his neckerchief. Such as is worn by policemen as a secret sign to fellow members of the force that a crime is being perpetrated. Yes, this young man is an undercover policeman, currently investigating this museum. I know him well, in fact. It's Sergeant John Clay. What are you talking about? The man's quite a celebrity. He received triple accolades at last year's policing awards. But... Next, we shall turn our attention to the old man sat before him with the particularly unsightly visage. I guess he's a young man compared to this one, I've been watching closely and he hasn't moved a muscle. Almost, in fact, as if he were a waxwork. Well, maybe that is a waxwork. This is a waxwork museum, Sholmes. I think you're the only fake waxwork here. But you... Your reaction only confirms my suspicions, madame. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe. Okay, I think the tag might be attached to the scarf. Is that a sale price of 3 pence? The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious price tag. Threepence. A tragically low price, you might say. Though perhaps the going rate for aging waxworks riddled with cracks. And yet you sold it to the portly gentleman for an exorbitant £200. The sort of plucky behaviour that's sure to attract the attention of Scotland Yard. Isn't that so, madame? I do not... Yes, the waxwork you sold has already been seized by the police and remains in their custody as we speak. The old man must be reunited with his grave in the special exhibit, and not a moment too soon. I mean, I'm tempted to agree with the phrase that the waxwork in question is currently in the hands of the police. Because... well, or in police custody, because, I mean, I'm theorising there's a waxwork involved in this whole teleportation death thing. Yeah. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes's great deduction of this horrifying puzzle. Time for hold it, Mr. Sholmes. Oh, we're being threatened with boiling wax. I see I've stunned you all into silence. You have, Hurley, you have. And you've obviously upset this young lady in the process. Her cauldron looks awfully hot. If I could just bring up one point, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, the notorious Naruhodo 1 point. I'm all ears, my dear fellow. According to your deduction then, the special exhibit featured this old policeman? So that would mean he's the particularly ruthless murderer, wouldn't it? The killer policeman, Ottermole. Sorry? It was a mysterious series of murders that rattled the capital only last year. The police rushed to the scene every time, only to find the culprit had disappeared into the ether. And it turned out the culprit was a policeman himself, a senior officer by the name of Ottermole. Oh dear. We don't like killer policemen. So you mean that's who the sinister-looking old man there is supposed to be? Indeed. It is a particularly grim face, is it not? Unforgettable, in fact, yes. I remember that odious countenance only too well. But is £200 a lot of money for a wax model? It would be enough to afford one of the latest steam carriages, if that puts things into perspective. Okay, so enough money for a car. That is quite a lot. So it is quite a lot then. Is there anything else you wish to add? Before I melt you down. That bubbling wax is looking more and more ominous. You wholly I hope that it may have been Jack the Ripper. There was Jill the Ripper somewhere on one of the sides. The smell of all that molten wax is starting to worry me. Mr. Sholmes did more or less just accuse her to her face, so... I think I might have to call in your assistance here, Iris, if that's alright. To make some minor corrections to the Great Detective's great deductions. Of course it's alright! We'll soon set things straight. Well, let's get started then, shall we? Before Madame Two-Spells vents her anger. Just what I was waiting to hear, my dear fellow. So, Madame Two-Spells, in accordance with our agreement, you shall now have the pleasure of seeing this famously great detective and temporary exhibit at work. Hold it, Mr. Sholmes. Alright, time to get back through it again. To begin with, we must ask ourselves what exactly is afoot here in this museum. The answer is revealed by the bundle of banknotes protruding so helpfully from your bag. In my estimation, some £200. That is all my own money. So what does this large sum of money reveal? Ah, not so much as the involuntary glance you cast, it would seem, Madame Two-Spells. Yes, the answer lies where your eyes now fall. The significance of the £200 is revealed by that public notice. Except it's not the public notice, so we gotta find something else. She definitely looks in this direction, that's true. But I'm not sure she'd sell any of her waxworks even for £200. Oh? She must pour her heart and soul into making them, don't you think? Over and above the wax. If it were me, I wouldn't sell them for anything. But that's a for sale notice. For that much money I would. But it sounds like that makes me a bad person. Well, anyway. I wonder if the £200 could have some other significance. Let's follow that furtive glance again and see if there's anything else that could explain it. Alright, so we're gonna have a little look at the public notice. Waxwork for sale. Would anyone really buy models of mass murderers? I think I'd rather have £200 in my pocket. Exactly. You could buy one of those new types of steam carriage. That's what I'd spend it on if I had it, no question. Ooh, I'd buy all the herbs in the world. There must be another explanation for the money. We need to keep looking. I mean, it's the bloke, right? Which I think is actually the only other thing we can look at. It seems this well-dressed gentleman is alive after all. Not alive and kicking. And he's not a waxwork or a model of a mass murderer. Not sure I'd pay £200 for him. I don't think the man's up for sale. Well, anyway, it was a silly place to put him. Other museum visitors could easily trip. I don't think the man was put there on purpose either. Oh no, wait, we can rotate this. Aha! No, there's £200 on it. What's that note doing pinned on the wall there? Oh, yes, let's see. Dear Madame Two Spells, we've taken the prisoner from this room. The price for his safe return is £200. Have the money ready by noon on the 23rd of October. What? So, yeah, Madame Two Spells is innocent and that £200 is her own money. Because someone's trying to extort her out of £200 for the waxwork. Yeah, wax snapping, yes. This is... It's just like the sort of thing that's left behind when someone is kidnapped. Yes, it's a ransom note! Exactly. Okay, it's the ransom note. The significance of the £200 is revealed by that ransom note. Quite so, and we must congratulate these criminals on their inventiveness, abducting a waxwork. Yeah. £200 is no small ransom fee, yet you clearly intend to pay it. The model in question has special importance, so I put together all the money I have. In summary then, the £200 you have in your handbag is ransom money. Now let us explore the next curiosity with which we are presented. Who is the portly gentleman stretched out so peacefully on the floor? It would appear the man has suffered a severe shock, the cause of which is clearly known to you. Is it the ransom note? Because he would have been facing that if he sort of fell immediately over. Yeah. Unfortunately, madame, keeping secrets does not appear to be your forte. What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the £200. So if the waxwork was kidnapped, where does that leave us in terms of who this man is? We could just ask him when he comes around. I think the point of this exercise is to understand the beauty of the deduction process, Iris. Yes, you're right. Hurley's trying so hard, we mustn't let him down. Well, there's little doubt that he suffered a shock. That much seems clear. But in that case, what's Madame Two-Spells trying to hide? Let's have a closer look around. Why is there a hand? Wait, is that your hand? Wait, that's not... Why do you have a hand there? Madame! That is not your hand. Why are you holding a hand? This is just Madame Two-Spells' right hand, isn't it? Yes, it must be. I can clearly see her left hand after all. But that's a left hand. Oh, but wait a minute. This is a left hand as well, look. Don't say such creepy things, Iris, please. And it seems very stiff too. In fact, it's really hard. You mean it's made of wax? So we've got a waxwork hand there. Let's look at her hair. Madame Two-Spells has very long hair, doesn't she? Yes, but you couldn't tell looking at her from the front. You know, it looks rather like a whip, don't you think? A sort of whip that could have floored the gentleman with a single crack? That seems a little far-fetched, even for you, Runo. Let's look at the £200. So she was prepared to pay all that money to get her waxwork back again? It really must have been a very special model. Of a mass murderer? Just how special can a model of a ruthless killer be? Well, anyway, we can be fairly sure the man lying on the floor didn't take it. I suppose we should leave him in peace. Yeah, so I think we're going for the waxwork hand. She hits him over the head with the arm. Maybe. What time is it in the game at the moment? Because, like, could he be the guy who came to collect the £200?
Take that!
What dealt the man such a shocking blow was, of course, the waxwork hand. Indeed, with a solid waxwork limb, one could deliver a very substantial blow. Yep, Sholmes also thinks that she hit him over the head with the waxwork arm. How could you? The hand protruding from the bottom of your cape. It ought to be a right hand, but closer inspection reveals that in fact it's a left hand. Ah! And somewhat masculine as well. It's also got a slightly different skin tone to her, but... In other words, it does not belong to you, madame. It is the hand of a waxwork model. Some of the visitors to my museum can be troublesome. They meddle with the exhibits and cause damage. So you mean that, Yes, this gentleman saw fit to try to remove it as a souvenir. Oh, he was trying to thieve it. No small keepsake. Like taking a whole branch of a cherry tree when you go to view the blossoms. I am afraid I had to teach the man a lesson. You confronted the man and tried to take the arm back. And the result, the scene we see before us. He was knocked unconscious. A point we may need to revisit later, but for the time being, we have our conclusion. Yes, the killer in this special exhibit has been kidnapped. The question that arises then is, what has become of the waxwork that changed hands? Let us consider that problem for a moment. You cannot possibly... What immediately strikes me about this conundrum is the young man standing over there. Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his neckerchief. According to Mr. Sholmes, the yellow neckerchief is a sign to other policemen that some crime is underway. A way of communicating with his colleagues without revealing his identity, yes. It's a secret that's closely guarded by Scotland Yard. That Mr. Sholmes didn't hesitate to give away. Well, uncovering secrets is any true detective's nature, of course. Right. Anyway, judging from Madame Two-Spell's reaction to Mr. Sholmes' seduction, I think perhaps we might not have identified the man quite correctly. It's the damaged waxwork. But let's look at the neckerchief. Yeah, the shade of the clothes and the arm. Yeah, that's why I immediately rotated it to go look behind her. A secret scarf to warn other agents of an ongoing crime. I know, it sounds so thrilling, doesn't it? Maybe I'll try to work it into next month's instalment. But then the police secret will be revealed to all of London's 6 million inhabitants. Well, they'll just have to come up with a new sign, I suppose. How does this 10-year-old manage to have such terrifying influence? I don't think there's anything else we can look at here anyway. Oh wait, no! We can look at his flat cap. I've seen hats like this in Japan too. In Japan as well. They're called flat caps, aren't they? Yes, or hunting caps. Pearlie's hat is called a deerstalker, by the way. Hunting, stalking. The British certainly seem keen on catching game. Every time I see a deerstalker, I automatically think of Mr. Sholmes. But a flat cap makes me think of a Japanese country gentleman somehow. In other words, people from all walks of life wear all different types of hats, so that doesn't really help us. Anyway. The missing arm. What the? The man has a stub sticking out of his shoulder where his arm should be. Ah, well, that settles it then. Right, this isn't a real person at all. His entire arm's been ripped off from the shoulder down. His arm's been... Of course. That ties in with what we just found out.
Take that!
Who is this fellow? To find the answer, we need only observe his shoulder stub. No such boneless human walks this earth. Of that I can assure you. In other words, the man standing here, the young Sergeant John Clay, is in fact, defying all odds, a waxwork model. I seem to remember it was you who concluded he was a real person in the first place, Mr. Sholmes. He has become quite a celebrity in London, being the winner of no less than 3 policing awards last year. I simply had to make a model of the man. Naturally, what other explanation could there be? And it was this detective's arm that was pulled off by the man on the floor in the special exhibit, wasn't it? Clever of him pulling off the arm that was more away from view. Next, we turn our attention to the old man sat before him with the particularly unsightly visage. I've been watching closely and he hasn't moved a muscle. Almost, in fact, as if he were a waxwork. Ah, but you... Your reaction only confirms my suspicions, madame. I noticed it at once, of course. Observe. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious price tag. A killer policeman called Ottermole, was it? Was he well known? It was all over the papers last year, but I can't say I know what he looks like. It's a very low price, though. Threepence isn't much money. Only enough for a few measly hours of gas in Mr. Garadeb's delightful lodgings, in fact. So this is the special killer taken from the special exhibit, is it? The waxwork that someone stole from the museum and tried to ransom for £200. Is this crusty old killer policeman Ottermole? Really? Perhaps we should have a good look around again and see if another idea crops up. Let's bet that Clay is actually Ottermole. I'm gonna bet on no, because I'm betting that they must have caught Ottermole because they know his name. £3. It's a far cry from £200, isn't it? For threepence, you could buy it and put it on display in your room, Runa. I still think it's threepence for the scarf, but I think I'd rather not go to sleep being watched by an old man, if that's the same to you. This price tag does stand out, doesn't it? I mean, you couldn't even buy the helmet on his head for that much money, I don't think. I wonder what the price tag's really for, then. Okay, so we're probably looking at the scarf, because that's the other thing. Oh, hello! This isn't a waxwork at all! It's moving! Anyway, let's look at the scarf. I don't believe it! It's the secret sign that lets other detectives know some criminal activity is underway. Yes, it's a slightly strange choice of outfit if he was going to go unnoticed. He must be a detective disguised as a policeman. Or a detective disguised as a waxwork model of a policeman. He doesn't look like he's clever enough to think of something like that, though. Perhaps you should try to be a little more polite about him, Iris. An early animatronic. Yeah, I think we're a bit too early for animatronics here. Look at this! The old man's tapping his foot like crazy. Is it Morse code? I don't know how to do Morse code. He seems to be fast asleep, though. He's not tapping his foot consciously, then? So you mean... It must be a twitch! Never mind that, the point is, waxworks don't tap their feet. Or twitch! And look at his arm, too. We've seen a scarf like that somewhere else around here, haven't we?
Take that!
Let's go to anger because they're throwing a lot of shade at him. The telltale sign that instantly proves whether or not this old man is a waxwork is the obvious twitch. Even the most realistic waxworks do not exhibit a twitch. In other words, this splendid old man is in fact a genuine member of Scotland Yard. Slight shift in your choice of adjectives, then. And there you have it. Well, Madame Two Spells. Well, what? It was me who contacted the police and demanded that someone come in the first place. He is clearly fatigued. He is sound asleep. But then, what's this tag about showing a price of £3? No doubt the price tag of the muffler, which the old Bobby purchased recently at a local market. And I presume you've observed the scarf tied around his arm. Does that not strike you, Mr. Naruhodo? Yes, the secret sign used by detectives to show that some criminal activity is currently underway. Of course, because, as you know, there has been just such criminal activity happening here. As you deduced from the very beginning, Detective. So, it would seem that we finally arrive at the truth. The waxwork of the especially ruthless killer from the special exhibit has been kidnapped. And Scotland Yard are already investigating. But the model's whereabouts remain a mystery. Thus concludes Sherlock Holmes' great deduction of this horrifying puzzle. All sorts of people visit my museum here. Men and women, young and old. Sometimes they drop in for just a short time on their way back from the pub. I welcome them all. But if anyone tries to damage my exhibits, I do not take it lightly. Anyway. Your great deduction was even more enchanting than I had been led to believe. It was a pleasure, my dear madame. I'm gratified that you enjoyed the spectacle. And as for your rough customer, I've no doubt he'll regain consciousness shortly and return home. What concerns me more is the waxwork from the special display. If it was indeed genuinely abducted. Yes, tragically it was. Then I would ask you to recount to us the events surrounding the stolen waxwork. In as much detail as possible, if you please. Very well. But after I have told you what I know, I must insist that you return to your work. The talents of a great detective could be put to better use, I feel. But as you wish. Ooh, we're going to get to talk to Madame Two-Spells about this. Shouldn't he be charged for the damages? Yeah, probably. Tell us more about the stolen waxwork, please. It was some days ago now, when I came in here one morning. I immediately noticed that a waxwork was missing from the special exhibit here. It is your most prominent display, so that's why the curtains were closed. And I found the ransom note in its place. The culprit must have broken in during the night and taken it then. So this waxwork that was stolen, it was a model of some horrible criminal, I suppose. Or was it a model of a rather rich guy who was also a criminal? Of a particularly horrible criminal, in fact. The killer who left a more profound scar on society than any other, I would say, the Professor. The Professor. Professor? It's Moriarty's waxwork! I guess. Was Moriarty a killer? I mean, Moriarty was also known as the Professor, right? Not a name I've heard of. So, Mr. Naruhodo, it seems the circle is complete. Sorry? The Professor case happened around the time I was born, didn't it? Indeed it... Excuse me. Indeed it did, Iris. 10 years ago, a series of murders that rocked the capital. 10 years ago? Yes, at exactly the time that Baroque von Zieks graduated from university, in fact. Oh. Did someone relating to Baroque von Zieks get killed by this professor guy? And is that why Baroque von Zieks is, the way he is now? What? Surely he's not saying... So the big event that changed Mr. Reaper's life? As you've surmised, it was the Professor case. Who was this Professor, then? It was a series of gruesome murders that had all of London gripped in terror a decade ago. After 5 victims were killed, the man was arrested and put to death. And now he's immortalised here in wax for all Londoners to admire and enjoy. Though of course he happens to be absent at present on account of the abduction. But I don't understand. How is all this related to Lord Van Zieks? You must first understand, my dear fellow, why it is that the Professor earned such infamy. It was due to the victims he chose, some of Whitehall's finest. What do you mean, Hurley? Those murdered by the Professor were some of the highest members of the British aristocracy. Yes, it must have been like his dad or something, right? Or his mum. Members of the nobility, even royalty. It sent shockwaves through the country's administration. Members of the... wait, of course. What Professor Harebrained said. Lord Van Zieks is from a family with noble blood. Oh, gosh! It was the 5th victim that led to the It was the 5th victim that led to the Professor's arrest. The last of the killer's prey was a young noble by the name of... Van Zieks. Clint Van Zieks. No! I don't believe it! Van Zieks? So, father or brother, I'm guessing. I'm sure you can piece together the rest for yourself. In the wake of his older brother's murder, okay, it was brother, the young Baroque pursued a career as a prosecutor, and eventually became the Reaper we know today. I had no idea Lord Van Zieks had such a tragic past. Well, I'm afraid that's all I can say on the matter, for the time being at least. After all, I have work to do. As a waxwork exhibit. I am afraid I shall have to excuse myself as well. Oh, yes, of course. It's been a pleasure, thank you. Well, none of the predicted scenarios I've been analysing involved you coming to visit me here. It's been too long, it really has. I'm delighted to see you, Baroque. What was my voice for Professor Harebrained? I don't remember. It's been 10 years, and here we are, meeting in a prison of all places. I can't forgive myself for what happened to Mr. Hazman. I just can't. I still can't believe it could happen. Tomorrow the court will decide. Yes! I have a young Eastern man acting for my defense. He seems reliable enough, though. It was an accident. A terrible accident. He assures me he can prove it. I must warn you. Oh, I know. I've heard already. You're going to be prosecuting, aren't you? Yes. Since I returned to England, I've heard lots of stories. Baroque, are you really... What? Never mind. I know you have my best interests at heart. My friend is on trial. I wouldn't entrust it to anybody else. Of course, I fully understand. Thank you, Baroque. Until tomorrow, then. I'll see you in court. So is Van Ziek's going to be secretly on our side this time? Because it's his friend? Should Baroque von Zieks be allowed to be the prosecutor for his friend's trial? Is entirely another matter. But since we don't seem to care about people being related to people involved in the thing when it comes to the jury, I guess we probably don't care about it when it comes to the prosecution either. "23rd of October. Okay, so today is the day that the people were going... Wait. So if today's the day that was on the ransom note at Madame Two-Spells, why was she carrying around the £200 yesterday? Conflict of interest. That's the words I was looking for. Thank you, Nick. Oh, sorry, I actually forgot to read out the thing, didn't I? 23rd of October, 8:52 AM. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber. I can't believe it's been 6 months since I was last allowed to work in court. Now here I am, back at the Old Bailey. Mr. Naruhodo. Good morning, Professor Hairbrain. I don't understand. It doesn't make any sense. The atmospheric pressure in here is off the charts. I've never felt anything like it. It's crushing me. I feel it every time I'm here, that gravity. Well, this is Britain's highest court. But you're telling me it's fitted with some kind of device that can actually control air pressure? No, I think it's actually in your mind, but... I think it's probably all in the mind. Yes, well, you won't let me down, will you, Mr. Naruhodo? I'm counting on you in today's trial to save my life! To save the secrets of my super high voltage instantaneous kinesis machine from being made public! Yes, I understand. I know what I have to do. I have to establish that the explosion 2 days ago was nothing more than an unfortunate accident. Unfortunately, I think we're going to end up establishing that the explosion 2 days ago was sabotage, but, you know. We are going to establish that it wasn't you at fault, Professor. Probably. Well, I'm sure there's nothing to worry about, really. Justice will prevail. Who do we think this is? Is it the judge? My commiserations, Mr. Naruhodo. You appear to have been lumbered with a most tiresome case here. Nope. Sholmes. So, my commiserations, Mr. Naruhodo. You appear to have been lumbered with a most tiresome case here. Mr. Sholmes, I didn't expect to see you here. It was very mean, Runo, leaving me all alone at home with Hurley. It took me at least an hour to wake him. Is it? Are you... Sherlock Sholmes? Indeed, sir, I am he, Sherlock Sholmes. I guess you were right in guessing there, Nick, that it was Sholmes. I assumed that Sholmes would have done his usual oversleeping. But apparently Iris managed to wake him up. Oh, I've heard all about your exploits, even while living in Germany. Ah, yes. Rance magazine is on sale in Germany, too. This month's installment was sublime. Your deduction in the adventure of Silver Blaze was wonderful. Ah, yes, a memorable case indeed. It concerned a snake, I seem to recall. No, that was the Speckled Band. You'd have expected the prophet. I mean, Iris isn't displaying her geniusness at the moment. Well, thank you for coming. I do appreciate your support. I'm sorry to disappoint you, my dear fellow, but I'm afraid I cannot stay. Oh? I have some urgent business at Madame Two Smells. Ah, you're off to work, are you, Sholmes? You mean your waxwork job? No, the waxwork abduction, of course. Madame has engaged my services. Ah, so you're trying to get to the bottom of that ransom note, are you? The week's wages depend on it, as does the safe return of the waxwork, naturally. As such, I intend to give it my undivided attention. Oh, well, never mind then, I understand. Of course, with my skills of observation and reasoning, resolving the matter will be as easy as proverbial pie. I shall return forthwith. For until I solve the case, I shall have no money to afford a pie of any description. Oh, then you must absolutely give it your full attention, Hurley. Quite, Iris, quite. But life is riddled with irony, you know. Whenever I give something my full attention, I have a quite insatiable desire for a pie. One of the universe's intractable mysteries, you might say. Oh, yes, quite, definitely, absolutely, I totally understand. Is someone a little starstruck? I think he would be more starstruck if he knew that Iris was the one writing. I wish you the best of luck, Professor Hairbrain. Oh, why, thank you. Before I depart, Mr. Naruhodo, a word in your ear, if you please. What's this about? Your brain craves sugar when you're working hard. Yeah, not all pies are sugar, though. In fact, when presented with just the word pie, my brain goes to meat pies. As you have remarkably little grounding in science, I feel I ought to inform you. As compelling as this super high-voltage instantaneous kinesis hypothesis may be, a practical implementation, such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition, is quite impossible. But the professor said the demonstration was a success. Yes, it would appear that he fervently believes it was. I've read Professor Bunnybrain's paper about it too, Runo, and I have to say, I'm sure it can't be done. It could barely be done theoretically, let alone practically. So he's completely barking up the wrong tree? But how could an experiment that had no possibility of succeeding in fact succeed? That's contradictory. Well, unless the explosion caused the guy's body to be blown all the way over there and through the glass. You've never had a meat pie, have you, Nick? Yeah, it might just be an English thing. We have fruit pies as well, but I'm not a big fan of fruit pies. And it's that contradiction that will be at the heart of the trial, I've no doubt. What's that supposed to mean? Now I must hurry along. I wish you the best of luck, my dear fellow. See you later, Hurley. Well, it looks like you're on your own today, Runo, but chin up, you can do it. Oh, what about you, Iris? I very much assumed that Iris was going to be with us. No, I'm afraid I can't help. I have something I need to do. I see. It's going to be a big surprise for you when you find out what it is. That sounds ominous. It could be a good surprise. She could be off to pick Susato-san up. Counsel for the defense and the defendant. Court is about to be in session. Make your way into the courtroom at once. We're on our way. An experiment that the laws of science say can't possibly succeed. And a scientist who's convinced it did. That's the riddle you have to unlock here, Inosuke. That's the key to this case. Mm. 23rd of October, 9:10 AM. The Old Bailey courtroom. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby declare this court to be in session. We are sitting today for the public trial of Professor Albert Harebrain. I now call upon the counsels for the prosecution and defense to declare their willingness to proceed. The prosecution is ready. The defense is ready, my lord. I am 6 months out of practice, and what's more, I'm without Susato-san today. Yeah, I was wondering about the jury. I wonder if it's anyone we know. Is it just my imagination, or does the air in here feel even more oppressive than usual? So, I must say I recollect the victim of this case all too well, Mr. Odi Asman. Mr. Asman was well known as a financier, although that was merely a front for his diverse criminal activities. It was only a month ago that the man appeared in court prosecuted by you, Lord Van Zieks. But the jury unanimously found him not guilty. Because every member of the jury had been bribed by the sound of it. These powerful London criminals are prepared to go to extreme lengths to keep their freedom. Sounds like McGilded, right? But 2 days ago, on 21st of October, Mr. Asman met his end. The work of the Reaper, was it? Can't believe even the judge is bringing up the Reaper. If that is how your lordship would describe divine retribution. But the fact remains that Mr. Asman's death was a direct result of the actions of the accused, Professor Harebrain. Very well then. Now, ladies and gentlemen of the jury, you have been selected at random to represent the will of the people. Let's see how random these jury members are today. Are the 6 of you ready to fulfill your societal duty? Oh, I don't recognise this bloke. I am most gratified to have been selected to carry out this important civic duty, my lord. To have a man's fate in the palm of one's hand. Oh gosh, oh golly, it sends shivers down my spine. Why do we have a magician? Science experiments, magic, conjuring tricks, courtroom trials, all are nothing more than performances. That guy's got a lot of medals, and also a flask. Any spurious scholar that defiles the reputation of science deserves to hang. We have to listen to what's said on both sides of the fence and then settle on one. That's it, isn't it? This young lady appears to be a bit young to be on jury duty. I appreciate the typewriter noises. On eating a corn on the cob. I have also been accused of looking like I'm eating it like a typewriter. Hey! This guy's face seems familiar. Weren't you sitting in the Waxworks Museum yesterday, sir? Also sleeping. Wasn't like this in my day. Wasn't like this at all. That's the police killer Osimo look-alike again. You've never had corn on the cob, have you, Nick? Yeah, that is the proper, definitely the proper way to eat it. I want corn on the cob now, but I don't have any. And he's as exhausted as ever, it seems. Now, as I'm sure you're all aware, the incident we are here to judge today tragically took place at the Great Exhibition shortly after its opening. Though the death toll could have been far worse. With the exception of the victim, no one was killed. Nevertheless, the dream of the science being exhibited rapidly turned into a nightmare for the spectators. A tragic turn of events, and as such, the eyes of all of London, no, of the whole world, will be on this trial. It is our duty to reach a swift and just conclusion, I feel. You've seen fails of people trying to eat it via a drill. Yeah, I don't think that would work. That's rotating too fast. So, your opening statement, please, Lord Van Zeeks. At the heart of this incident is the technology never before demonstrated anywhere in the world. One of science's latest developments, I take it. The government is keen to capitalise on the Great Exhibition to improve Britain's technological advantage. The technology being demonstrated by the accused was described as super high voltage instantaneous kinesis. Good lord! It's designed to disassemble human subjects using extremely high voltage electricity, and beam them instantly to another location where they are subsequently reassembled. Is such a thing even within the realms of possibility? Well, I don't believe it, that's for sure. Disassembling people with electricity? My goodness, how shocking. Yeah, that whole idea was absurd. The hypothesis would never stand up for scrutiny. Sir, I believe you are a Fellow of the Royal Society, are you not? An expert in your field? I am, and my word on the matter can be considered final. Instantaneous kinesis is poppycock. So this expert and Mr. Sholmes are in agreement. It's impossible. What is the prosecution's view on the matter? The prosecution would assert that the accused instantaneous kinesis demonstration was a success. What? What rot? Dude's got a test sheet as well. Order! The professor's hypothesis is currently under investigation by the British government. If it is deemed to have merit, a substantial research grant would be made available. The accused made use of the invention built on his new hypothesis to take Mr. Asman's life, in order to be the sole benefactor of the grant. But... this disastrous demonstration was no accident. It was carefully designed from the outset to end the life of the victim. Oh, he's claiming it was a success because it killed a man. Not in any other way. Thank you, Lord Van Zeeks. The prosecution's stance is clear. But you will now bring forth witnesses to substantiate your claims. Gladly, my lord. Oh, there goes the cape. Bailiff, show the first witnesses to the stand. Oh, Harebrain himself and the inspector. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court. Yes, sir. Tobias Gregson, Detective Inspector at Scotland Yard's Homicide Division. I was on duty at the demonstration on the day in question and in charge of the following investigation. Albert Harebrain, scientist. You were born in England, but have been carrying out research in Germany in recent years, correct? Yes, that's right. After graduating from university here in Britain, I went to work in Germany and made an amazing discovery. Which is what brought me back. I had to demonstrate my incredible hypothesis to the Great Exhibition. What you demonstrated was incredible, alright? An incredible explosion. But the science was a success! The instantaneous kinesis worked! Everyone saw it! They must have done! Yes, there was a terrible accident, but the demonstration of my hypothesis was a success! Well, that much is undeniable, as shown in this photograph taken by the forensic investigation team. This was taken inside the Crystal Tower, I take it. The centerpiece of the exhibition, no less. It looks like he got stabbed in the chest by something. Possibly just by shrapnel from the explosion, but You know, I'd expect that if he got hit by shrapnel from the explosion, he'd have blood in more places. Like, he's got blood in just the one place. That's right, my lord. Seems the victim rammed straight into it. I see. Very well. Submit the photograph as evidence. The photograph of the victim has been entered into the court record. Photographic print of the victim taken after he had ostensibly been beamed to the Crystal Tower. It shows an apparent stab wound to the chest. As the court's heard, the victim of the incident was Mr. Odi Asman. There have been a number of allegations made against the man, but putting them aside for the time being, he was the man who financed the research for the experiment and demonstration itself. I see. So to summarise the situation, the defendant is accused of taking the life of the man who funded his work. Would that be correct? Exactly. But couldn't it be that the explosion was caused by some malfunction in the apparatus used for the demonstration? That's right, that must be it! My splendid machine! My poor splendid machine! You saw it yesterday, didn't you? We can't even examine the wreckage thanks to the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act. What? The wreckage? The wreckage? But that being the case, how can the facts be established? How can it possibly be determined whether this was an accident or a deliberate and malicious act? I mean, it was a deliberate and malicious act of someone. He got stabbed. When they said that something went wrong with this experiment, and there was an explosion and a man died, I assumed he died because of the explosion. Wait, he didn't get stabbed. I forgot, he didn't get stabbed. Well, he didn't get stabbed with a knife. He got shot with a crossbow. What happened to the bolt then, though? Extremely simply, my lord. I beg your pardon. Isn't that right, witness? What? Sorry? Me? No, your neighbour. Yes, sir, it was murder, plain and simple. Anyone could state that with complete certainty. What? How can he possibly think that? I mean, even if it was murder, and it probably was murder, I don't think it was the professor that did it. I don't think there's a way the professor could have done it. Thank you, Inspector. I think we had better proceed to formal testimony. You will explain to the court on what grounds you claim this experiment to have been a front for murder. Yes, a front for murder works. The corpse that went crashing through the Crystal Tower had a broken neck. I made a minor mistake calculation in the angle of the beam projection, that's all. That was my mistake. Okay, he had a broken neck, so he did go crashing through the glass, huh? Well, the post-mortem examination revealed another injury. A fatal wound. There was a lesion in his chest where he'd clearly been stabbed by something sharp right in the heart. Seems like slightly more than a lesion, but you know. So the victim was killed before he went anywhere. And this fella's the only one who could have done it. No, he isn't. I found a crossbow! A folding crossbow! An extraordinary business. In addition to suffering a broken neck, the victim was stabbed in the heart. Information I would really like to have heard from someone other than the judge. The coroner says death would have been all but instant from a wound like that. You could say, in fact, that the victim was killed twice by the accused. I think he was only killed once by the accused. No, that couldn't have been further from the truth. I have here the experiment plan document that was submitted to the security team. The victim stood himself inside something called the bird cage, ready to be beamed instantly. To the second level of the crystal tower, about 25 yards away. The experiment did not go according to plan, however. As the machine was put into operation, there was a large explosion. The blast caused the beam transmitter to point higher than intended. Oh! Oh, that's how we're doing it. Accordingly, the kinesis resulted in the birdcage materializing in mid-air, from where it subsequently fell, crashing through the glass of the crystal tower's large round window. Wait! No, if he was falling downwards, he wouldn't have gone through that window, though. He'd have had to be going sideways to go through that window. Surely. My word! One assumes the victim's neck was broken upon impact with the tower, then. I'm so sorry, I didn't mean for this to happen. The machine was just too powerful. But honestly, really, I swear it was just an accident, a terrible accident. Unfortunately, that excuse can't save you. No, not considering the sharp murder weapon that pierced the victim's heart. Murder weapon? What are you saying? This is the autopsy report submitted by the coroner. The prosecution would like it to be entered into the court record. Your request is granted, counsel. The autopsy report has been entered into the court record. The autopsy reported the victim, Mr. Adsman. His neck was broken from the impact of a violent fall, and he was stabbed in the chest with a sharp object. I was there in person, you know. I saw the whole ludicrous performance. And the only other person on the stage with Mr. Adsman was that disgraceful excuse for a scientist. Then really, by all accounts, it must have been him. Hard to think otherwise, really. Very well. Counsel for the defence, proceed with the cross-examination, please. Oh, yes, my lord. I need to focus here. It's been a while. Cross-examination. Okay, it's time to press all the things. Actually, no, first I want to look at my evidence. The new pieces that we got. Photograph of the victim. So I guess this is still the birdcage he's lying in. Which is made of wood. Yeah, he's definitely been stabbed in the heart. But that's about it. He looks quite peaceful for someone who got stabbed in the heart. I guess they did say it was instantaneous. Details of the victim. Name, Mr. Odi Asman, male. Age 47, nationality British. Time of death, 21st of October, around 2:20 PM. Cause of death, hemorrhage of a wound to the chest that pierced the heart, inflicted by a sharp implement. Additional observations, a broken vertebra, most likely resulting from impact after a sudden fall from considerable height. Okay.
Hold it!
Are you suggesting that's because he fell from a considerable height? Exactly, which I like something else about this whole rum business. What's that? The fact that the instantaneous kinesis itself was a success. Ah. After the explosion, the cage with the fella inside suddenly appeared out of nowhere in midair. So although the experiment ended in disaster, the so-called instantaneous kinesis did actually occur. I'm still not sure he wasn't just exploded out of there, but you know. Remind us, Professor. What was the cause of the fatal disaster? Hey, if it was designed to, like, disassemble someone and put them somewhere else, was it also designed to disassemble the birdcage thing?
Hold it!
So the angle of projection is critical, is it? And you calculated it yourself, personally? Absolutely, the calculation is far too complicated for anyone but me to carry out. Only you got it wrong, didn't ya? Yes, that's right, that's the point! The calculation is so complicated, even I can make a mistake! Do people fall for that brazen confidence? I should try it. I took into account the subject's height and weight, wind direction, the ambient temperature. I considered every possible variable, so I just don't understand how this could have happened! Obviously, then, you had to include the weight of the clothes Mr. Asman was wearing at the time, I suppose. Ah! Crackling comets! The answer should have been 3! So much for safety first. The 3 must be for safety third.
Hold it!
Another fatal injury, you say? That doesn't make any sense. I didn't think I'd have to spell this out, but here we go. Just because there were 2 fatal wounds doesn't mean I'm saying the victim had 2 lives to lose, does it? Right. Obviously, at first we thought the bloke had died due to his spine snapping in half as well. But you're saying that's not the case? You'll get your answer once I've finished my fish and chips, if you don't keep butting in every few seconds. But we all know that's a bottomless bag. It's canonically a bottomless bag of fish and chips. Huh. The victim plummeted 30 feet into a glass tower. It would be reasonable to assume that is the cause of death. Right, that's what we all thought. But it was a red herring, wasn't it?
Hold it!
The defense knew nothing of this crucial information. The prosecution received this report from the forensic investigation team only this morning. That was the first we knew of it as well. I can only apologise for the impossibility of informing the defence. Sarcastic and insincere. Thanks. So, what was the nature of this sharp object? Among the accused's tools that were in use at the demonstration, one is of particular interest. Are you about to suggest that this man was stabbed with a screwdriver? Yep! Yes, he is! He is about to suggest that the man was stabbed with a screwdriver. Ah, yes, that would appear to be some kind of screwdriver, wouldn't it? Ah! There he is! My trusty little companion, Andrew! Oh no. Oh no, he named his screwdriver. Oh no. Andrew. Of course. Ah, do you know each other already? He's one of my dear friends, like all my tools. I've named them all, you know. We're one big happy family. And Andrew is my flathead screwdriver, of course. His brother Michael is a crosshead. Well, it would appear that your beloved Andrew has a red stain on his shank. That isn't... It's blood, beyond all reasonable doubt. No! We didn't spot that when we picked it up before. And that's not all. The long, sharp shape of this Andrew fella is completely consistent with the victim's wound. Which also means that it's also very consistent with an arrow. Shot from a crossbow. What? Order! The court will enter this friend of the defendant as evidence. The screwdriver has been entered into the court record. Professor Harebrain's trusty screwdriver that he's named Andrew. There are traces of blood at the tip and it matches the shape of the victim's wound. You'd expect that to be blood more than just the tip. Let's have a look at the screwdriver. Traces of blood. That's a lot of blood! This is blood. Mr. Asman's, no doubt. This is the problem with looking at murder weapons. Well, that's interesting. The bottom kind of looks like a screw itself. I've seen this unusually shaped handle before. It's the same screwdriver that was lodged in the grill on the floor of the Kinesis machine. Which could be important information, so I should definitely make a note of it. The metal screwdriver that was found poking through the grill of the base of what remains of the Kinesis machine. It has a very distinctive handle. What if the person with the crossbow stole the screwdriver and shot the screwdriver out of the crossbow? I mean, I doubt it. It's more likely that the explosion shot the screwdriver into the guy, but... Oh, there was something else I wanted to check while I was here. Alright. I was trying to figure out where the green cloth was from. So one of Professor Harebrain's tools is the murder weapon. Great!
Hold it!
What grounds do you have for saying that? Yeah, do you really need to ask? There were only 2 people on that public experimentation stage in front of the whole crowd. The victim, Mr. Odie Asman, and the accused, Professor Harebrain. And we know for certain that before the experiment, the victim was alive. That's right, I saw him with my own eyes. Furthermore, following the explosion and kinesis, no one went anywhere near the body. In other words, only someone else on the stage with the victim could have possibly done it. I want to end with what Gregson's doing and then come back for that pursuit. And Albert Harebrain is the only bloke who fits the bill. Unless you've got some other bright idea, Sunshine, in which case let's hear it. I do have a better idea, it's called a crossbow. My learned friend's silence is your answer, Inspector. Can't a man have a moment to think? So that's all the testimony I have to work with. I had no idea the victim had been stabbed. That changes everything. Did Van Zieks keep that to himself until now on purpose to gain the advantage? Oh well, I suppose all I can do is press these witnesses for as much new information as possible. Okay, alright, we're gonna go back and do that bit again. So that we can go do the pursuit.
Hold it! Great Scott!
Great Scott!
Excuse me.
Professor Hairbrain, do you have some information that may be relevant here? Professor! Ah, sorry! I was just calculating the optimum coefficient of electrolysis to separate molecules in the human body. And the witness stand is the best place for that? It seemed as though you might have something to say? That's Inspector Gregson's last remark. Ah! Yes, that's right. Of course! He just said that no one else could have done it, didn't he? Yes, that's right. Who else could have stabbed the victim, eh? I don't know, but there's no way that I could possibly have stabbed Mr. Asman as you say. Yeah? Explain, please, Professor. Of course, this cold-hearted policeman may not be aware, I suppose. But humans are warm-blooded mammals with blood running continually through their veins. I had heard. Then surely you see, if I'd plunged something the size of Andrew into the man's chest, the whole stage would have been a bloodbath, no a blood swimming pool. Well, Professor Hairbrain, we can tell that you are not a biologist. But thousands of Londoners were watching me at the time. And yet not one of them claims to have seen a swimming pool of blood. Well, no, I suppose not. You see, not one! True, I didn't see anything like that. Why are you messing with chemicals on the jury bench, sir? Well done, Professor. That was a great counter-argument. It wasn't, but... Order! Oh. You've driven Van Zieks to drink. Pray forgive the discourtesy if I savour a drop from my hallowed chalice to accompany my old friend's adducing. Here's to you, Albert. Oh, you're too kind, Barak, but I'm really not a patch on you. He didn't even drink any! No, you're not. No? You've neglected to mention one crucial possibility. I have? A particular situation in which very little bleeding would result from a stab wound. Ah, of course! Inspector, enlighten the court, please. If you stabbed him the moment that you disintegrated? Yes, sir. Where are they going with this? Very well. You will amend your formal testimony now, Inspector Gregson. The weapon the victim was stabbed with must have been left in his body whilst he was beamed through the air. We know it wasn't because we know where we found that screwdriver.
Hold it!
Why would you think that's, Inspector? With any wound, it's only when you pull the weapon out that profuse bleeding occurs. Whilst it's still lodged in the body, it acts as a stopper of sorts, for want of a better word. Which is why if anyone gets stabbed, you really shouldn't pull the thing out of them. You're supposed to wrap the bandages around the thing. I see. You don't need a medical degree to be aware of this fact. It's common knowledge for any investigator. Where's Susato-san when you need her? If you ask me, this bloke masked what he was doing from view with his body before stabbing Asman in the chest. Then he beamed the victim off the stage with his fancy device, screwdriver still where he planted it. I would never do such a thing, not to my precious tools! I would never use them for such dirty work. You only use tools for their intended purpose. That's common knowledge for any scientist. The fact remains, the lack of blood at the scene can easily be explained, as the prosecution has demonstrated. This is the bit we saw earlier. So I think, I mean, I was initially intending on presenting the crossbow to the previous thing that was here, but I guess that's gone now. So I think we need to present the screwdriver itself and my knowledge that it was still on the platform in the kinesis machine. So let's go. You say that while the weapon remains in the body, there's very little bleeding. Is that unequivocal? No, unequivocal. There we go. Look, there was no blood on the experimentation stage, even though that's where the fellow was stabbed. The only explanation for that is if the screwdriver was still in his body, stopping any heavy bleeding. It's common medical knowledge, my learned friend, even on your side of the world. Yes, but about this screwdriver. The thing is, we actually saw it at the scene ourselves, on the experimentation stage. What? It was on the floor by the wreckage of the machine, poking through a metal grill. I went to pick it up, but the detective here stopped me. Isn't that right, Inspector Gregson? Ah, well, now you come to mention it, yes. Inspector, are we to understand that you permitted the Defense Counsel to investigate? That you contravened the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act? No, not at all. I wouldn't do that. I just let him look, nothing more. I was very clear he wasn't to touch a thing. Yes, that's true. This screwdriver was in plain sight on the stage. But it shouldn't have been, should it? What are you getting at? If this tool had still been in the victim's body when the victim was beamed away by the machine, then it shouldn't have still been on the stage. Yeah. That's right. It should have been beamed across to the Crystal Tower along with Mr. Asman, and been found still lodged in the victim's chest. Yeah. Yeah. Order, order. How do you explain this, Inspector? I don't... It looks as though everything that the victim had on his person moved with him when he was beamed. If the screwdriver was still in his chest when the instantaneous kinesis occurred, obviously that should have been beamed to the destination as well. This is a strange situation. Even though people are saying that this instantaneous kinesis is a scientific impossibility, we're still basing arguments on the assumption that it actually did take place. Alright, time to tighten the screws here. My lord, if the prosecution is unable to explain this inconsistency in its argument, we can only conclude that the testimony given in support cannot be relied upon. Lord Van Zeeks is stumped.
Hold it!
Whoa! Very squeaky. Oh, that is Hairbrain. Okay, I need to be squeakier with Hairbrain. Do you have something to say, witness? Yes, I knew it! It bears out! The equations hold! Mr. Don't worry! About what? Without delving into the details, there is no inconsistency. No! We don't want you to prove there isn't an inconsistency. What? Even if Andrew had been lodged in Mr. Asman's chest, my trusty tool wouldn't have moved. Andrew remaining on the stage is consistent with my calculations. What? What? Is it because it's metal? Oh, goodbye entire bottle. It would seem your illusions have been shattered. Van Zeeks! Van Zeeks, did you intentionally endanger people in the public gallery just to make a pun? Shame on you! Clearly, we should hear the accused's explanation. Or, should I say, this brilliant scientist's explanation. Just when I'd found an inconsistency in the prosecution's argument. Scientists. Very well, the defendant will testify again. Provide us with the scientific explanation as to why the inconsistency asserted by the defence fails to hold. In the name of Apollo, I will, my lord. The inconsistency explained. To be clear, I'm still at the stage of gathering data in my research. My hypothesis states the kinesis cannot transport metal, though. Hence, the metal weapon would have stayed put. But Hairbrain, he's wearing glasses! Glasses! These are made of metal! These bits here are probably wood, based on that, but he's wearing glasses! In other words, the point just raised by Mr. Naruhodo isn't an inconsistency at all. Mr. Asman was the patron of my research. Without him, my work wouldn't have been possible. Now I have a duty to protect the incredible machine that we built together. So the thrust of your testimony, Professor, is that based upon his hypothesis, metal objects cannot be moved by this method of instantaneous kinesis. In other words, since the screwdriver is made of metal, even if it remained lodged in the victim's chest, its subsequent discovery on the stage, despite the victim being found elsewhere, is not an inconsistency. And therefore, Professor Albert Hairbrain could still have been the killer. My great hypothesis holds, you see! We had to make the cage used to contain the subject from wood for that very reason. I was not addressing you, witness. Professor Hairbrain? Yes? Whose side are you on here? I don't take sides, Mr. Naruhodo. No, no, no. My only interest lies in upholding my hypothesis. I'm only... no. I'm a scientist, after all. Is he working for us or against us? It's very hard to tell. Let's see how you cross-examine this testimony, my Nipponese friend. Yes, fire away, Mr. Naruhodo. Press all the things, I guess.
Hold it!
And yet your retort to my argument wasn't lacking in confidence in any way. No scientist can find the truth without first finding self-belief. Those were the words of a certain scientist I hold in very highest esteem. But you realise that disproving my argument puts you in a very precarious position, don't you? No scientist should strive to protect himself more than he strives to protect the truth. More words of the same great scientist, you know. Words that are causing me a lot of trouble. Who is this scientist? I'm afraid I couldn't tell you, Mr. Naruhodo. But as soon as I remember the magnificent genius's name, you'll be the first to know. It might be worth keeping the names of your idols to mind. You're wasting your breath, my learned friend. This scatterbrain even forgets my name at times. So, Lord Van Zeeks really did have a friend once. But I didn't notice hell freezing over. Oh dear.
Hold it!
Your hypothesis states it? So this isn't even proven then? No, of course not. It's merely a hypothesis, but a good one, based on thousands of calculations. But it is widely known that metals can't be decomposed by electrolysis. Of course, so I am right. My hypothesis is clearly correct. What is it about incriminating himself that makes this man so happy? The whole reason the birdcage is made of wood, you see. Sorry, the birdcage. Yes, that's what I call the sea obtusa cage in which the Mr. Asman was placed for the kinesis. Ah, the jail cell in which the victim was detained. It does indeed seem to be made of a timber of some sort. I'll thank you not to refer to it as an I'll thank you not to refer to it as an instrument of incarceration, your lordship. In short, any weapon lodged in the victim when he was beamed away by instantaneous kinesis would have been left behind on the stage as if it were made... No, would have been left behind on the stage if it were made of metal, correct? Yeah, perfect! Yes. It all fits perfectly with the mathematical model. And the ultimate conclusion, then, is that the defendant alone had the opportunity to inflict this fatal injury on the victim, is it not? Ah, indeed, sir. Someone beam me out of this nightmare.
Hold it!
You seem to be pleased by that. Another example of my hypothesis holding true. But I sense some sarcasm, Mr. Naruhodo. Are you not pleased? No, I am not pleased. I'm your defense lawyer. No. I knew it. At the end of the day, I'm the one responsible for Mr. Asman losing his life. The advancement of science is no excuse, I know that. No, you're quite right. Tell the court, did you have a close relationship with Mr. Asman? Oh, well, no, not really. I mean, I'd only met him 2 or 3 times. And we only ever discussed my hypothesis and the project. And the research grants, of course.
Hold it!
How did you come to know Mr. Asman in the first place? When he says small science journal there, it is rather small. Anyway, a year ago now, a small provincial science journal published a little paper about my work. Yes, a very small journal. That's a scientific journal? Good gracious, I should need new spectacles. Hairbrain sometimes looks showing, but 3/4 of the time looks like a proper crazed scientist, right? Definitely a mad scientist. I might have had an extraordinary hypothesis and great promise, but at the time I had no money. I had to eat tiny little meals at a tiny little cafe and drink watered down water out of a tiny little glass. Watered down water. But Mr. Asman read the paper and came to visit me at my tiny little laboratory. And offered you money to help fund your work. Exactly! That's exactly what happened. I handled the theoretical side of things and Mr. Asman provided me with an engineer for the practical. And the 3 of us produced that fantastic machine together. The machine that you brought to the Great Exhibition to demonstrate. We had to apply to the government for some sort of inspection before to be allowed to exhibit, I think. I didn't understand all that side of things. Mr. Asman took care of all of it. He was a wonderful man, really, I owe him everything. I'm suspicious of this engineer.
Hold it!
When you say you built the machine together, does that mean you were involved in its construction? Yes. Well, not exactly. I'm not good with the practical side of machines myself, so the physical construction was done by an engineer. Little remains of your creation now, though, following the explosion. Repair will no doubt be impossible. Yes, I realise that, but still. If someone were to gather all the broken parts, they could discover the secret of my hypothesis. Mr. Asman and I toiled over that machine for so long, we put our hearts and souls into it. I have to protect our work. So what's left of our machine, the machine must be kept safe. It's only fair, because what happened was an accident. That's the extent of the testimony then. Thank goodness for that. I don't want him doing any more damage. He's already basically proven that he could have been the culprit. But it seems as though all he really cares about is defending his hypothesis. Still, I wonder, what if his hypothesis is just fundamentally flawed? Right. I'm gonna present this picture of the dude because he's wearing glasses.
Objection!
Professor Hairbrain, you say that according to your hypothesis, nothing made of metal could be beamed by instantaneous kinesis using the machine you made? Is that right? Yes, that's right! Spot on, exactly correct! In that case, I'd ask you to have a look at this photograph that was taken at the scene. In particular, I'd like you to pay attention to the victim's face. You can clearly see that Mr. Asman is wearing a pair of spectacles with a metal rim. And a little metal chain thing decoration. What? Metal? No! Metal can't! That's not... metal? No! We've already established that the proposed murder weapon screwdriver was found on the stage. However, if your hypothesis correctly predicted that outcome, it should have also predicted that the metal-rimmed spectacles would be found in the same place. Yeah, my hypothesis! My hypothesis! Professor Hairbrain, this isn't easy for me to say, but your hypothesis is clearly flawed. Order! 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 Council, what is the implication of this? If on the day in question the alleged instantaneous kinesis never actually took place, then it's entirely possible that the victim was killed somewhere other than on the stage. And in that case, someone other than the defendant would have been the culprit. But my hypothesis! My hypothesis is sound! I proved it that day! The experiment was a success! The experiment was proof of all my work! If I could say something here in my capacity as a Fellow of the Royal Society. Yes, juror number 4, go ahead. As a man of science, there's one thing I simply cannot abide. And that's a fraud who pretends to be a fellow man of science. What? Wait! Great Scott, are you suggesting my science was suspect? It's just been disproved, hasn't it? In front of all of us. In other words, the whole demonstration was a complete nonsense from start to finish. Believe me, my fellow jurors, when I tell you that this man is a heel, a bounder, and a fraud. Ooh, a heel, a bounder, and a fraud. I say the wreckage of that machine should be stripped down and thoroughly examined. No! That machine is the essence of my entire hypothesis! It's protected by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act! What the devil is that blasted act all about, eh? Who made up such a daft rule? I don't like the way this seems to be going. What's the best way for me to help the professor? I mean, it's always raise an objection, right?
Objection!
Professor Hairbrain has yet to perfect his invention. That would seem to be the case, yes. But even so what? Going to such trouble and expense to create a fake machine to display in public? He would have absolutely no reason to do such a thing.
Objection!
He had an obvious reason to do exactly that. That being the money. For the research grant money. Yeah. Yeah, but he already had money. Asman was rich. If the government is foolish enough to have deemed this man's ridiculous notion plausible, he and his conspirators would have received a handsome sum indeed. Conspirators? What would be the value of such a grant? £10? I'm sure it will be more than £10, lady. You're an order of magnitude out, madame. £500 a year. That's a lot of money. Oh, I could live handsome on that much for years. That was not the right voice for that little lady, but hey. The Society's noticed an increase in bogus public demonstrations in the field of science recently. And plenty of scientists arguing with each other to get the largest slice of the funding cake. People's greed is plenty motive enough for murder, I assure you. That's true. No, I haven't deceived anyone, least of all the government. My hypothesis is sound, the science is sound. Please, you must believe me.
Objection!
No matter how unbelievable this hypothesis must seem to you, ladies and gentlemen, the fact remains that the victim was transported instantly to the Crystal Tower. Which means that the experiment was a success. Ah, Barak! And therefore, The only person who could possibly have committed this murder is the accused. I think Van Zieks is pushing so hard on the experiment was a success angle. Because if the experiment was a success, the only possible murderer is his friend. I think he wants us to prove that the experiment was not a success. Yeah, Barak. Where is this heading? I have no idea. My lord, if I may. Yes, Lord Van Zieks. The prosecution would like to summon new witnesses to the stand. New witnesses? What would be the nature of their involvement? They were spectators of the demonstration at the exhibition, who were occupying special seats. Eyewitnesses. Very well, the court grants the prosecution's request. I should very much like to hear from eyewitnesses to the incident. The prosecution's stance is clear. This experiment was no postiche. The accused killing the financier victim there on the public stage before the very eyes of the spectators. Now, my learned friend. Oh, yes? It's time for you to make your own stance clear. It's clearly a flaw in the professor's hypothesis. I can definitely see that. But where does that leave me? We shall take a short recess now, during which time the prosecution will prepare its new witnesses to take the stand. As you wish, my lord. Good. In that case, court is adjourned for 20 minutes. And with court taking a break, I'm also going to take a break to get some more water. But I won't be 20 minutes. I'll be a lot less than that. I'm back. 23rd of October, 10:44 AM. The Old Bailey Defendant's Antechamber. Also, an hour and 15 minutes before that ransom was supposed to be paid for the waxwork. Mr. Naruhodo! What on earth were you playing at just now? Or rather, what on earth were you playing at all along? My hypothesis, my amazing hypothesis! You've been picking holes in it from the start. Sorry about that. But you promised me! You said you'd prove that dratted explosion was an accident, not murder. You said you'd keep my precious invention from falling into anyone else's hands. But all you've done so far is try to undermine me. That's because we're trying to prove it's not murder. Yes, I did make you a promise, you're right. I said that I'd believe in you and fight for your freedom to the very end. But I also told you I was no scientist. I don't understand your hypothesis. The fact is, there's an undeniable flaw in your logic, isn't there? But if I just run through some equations... Yes, you see, it's because my work is incomplete. Perhaps it is. Nevertheless, a man died as a consequence, didn't he? Oh! Oh, no! Am I making Hairbrain too squeaky now? You're right. You're so right. It's all my fault. And I have no right to blame you for my failures. I'm a disaster, not just as a scientist, but as a human being. Well, that might be a little over the top. And while we're on the subject, what about Barak? He's being awful. The voice is good, is it? I wanted to check it wasn't getting, like, ear-splittingly squeaky. Like, we don't want it to be uncomfortable. Claiming his old university friend to be a murderer, you mean? A disaster! Not just as a prosecutor, but as a human being! Barak von Zeeks is a disaster human. Yep, I can accept this. Oh, but no, wait! He's the Reaper, isn't he? Perhaps he's not classified as Homo sapiens anymore! I'm glad that's cleared up. Can I double check something with you? Yes, what? The machine and demonstration you prepared, they were based entirely on your hypothesis, I presume. There was no trickery involved? That seemed to have made him a little mad. I drew the plans for the machine with my very own hands. Every line was painstakingly drawn with the firm belief that science is the only future. So yes, it's true that my hypothesis hasn't reached maturity yet, but please, Mr. Naruhodo, you must believe in it. Alright, Professor, I understand. Counsel, defendant. The prosecution's witnesses are ready to take the stand. Court is about to be in session again. Make your way into the courtroom, please. It all hinges on that demonstration. If the professor's hypothesis is as sound as he claims, it leaves him as the only person who could possibly have killed the victim. That's still alive, so there still is someone with a crossbow. But you know. But on the other hand, Mr. Sholmes was adamant. A practical implementation such as was attempted by the professor at the Great Exhibition is quite impossible. So really, what should I be trying to prove here? That the professor didn't stab the guy. 23rd of October, 11 AM. Hey, they told us we were getting a 20-minute recess. That was 16 minutes. I object. The Old Bailey courtroom. In the name of Her Majesty the Queen, I hereby reconvene the proceedings of this court. Counsel for the defense and prosecution, are you ready for the new witnesses to testify? The prosecution is ready, my lord. As is the defense, my lord. So, Lord Van Zeeks, I believe these next witnesses saw the demonstration on the day in question with their own eyes. Indeed they did. And as luck would have it, one of them is a police detective. Is it going to be someone we know? Did you just call, Gina to the stand? Probably not. I don't think Van Zeeks would be referring to her as a detective, right? So the testimony we are about to hear can be considered highly reliable. Perfect! A detective of all people. The prosecution's stance remains unchanged. Though it ended in tragedy, the demonstration on the day in question was scientifically sound. He's really pushing the science angle. And consequently, the sole person with the opportunity to have committed this act of murder is the only other individual to have been present on the stage at the time, the accused. Thank you, counsel. The prosecution's position is clear. So, bring forth your witnesses now. Bailiff, show the witnesses in. The witnesses whose proximity to the incident on the day in question will clarify the truth unequivocally. Unequivocally. Yeah. It is Gina! It is Gina! I thought Gina was just an apprentice. Witnesses, state your names and occupations for the court to hear. My name is Balthazar Loon. I am the impresario of all the hot air balloons in vicinity of the Experimento stage. Oh, by special seats, this is the people who were in the air balloon. Wait. Look at his hat! Look at his hat! Sir, are you aware that the inside of your hat is on fire? It looks like a mini hot air balloon with the fire and everything. Oh no, we've got to do German now. Should it really be name there? Shouldn't we be doing this entire sentence in German since, everything else is in German? Actually, is it spelled the same way in German? I don't remember. Yes, Balloon, yes. Small, but also German. Mein Name ist Wilhelm Gottreich Sigismund Ornstein. That's a fancy-ass name, small child. I have come to see the great exhibition all the way from my home in Bohemia. Oh, he just built a balloon. I'm very rich. Is that your occupation? Very rich. Yes, Name. Yeah, I thought it was. It's been a while on the German as well. Inspector Gina Lestrade, Scotland Yard. I'm a great detective. Even Sherlock Holmes agrees. I was on security duty at the exhibition and I got to go up in one of them balloons. It was amazing. Gina, again. But she did mention that she'd seen the disaster from up in a balloon, actually, didn't she? And she clearly loved every minute of it. There were 3 balloons flying near the public experimentation stage when the incident occurred. 2 of these witnesses were in one such balloon at the time and saw events unfold from the skies above. You make it sound like they were in the clouds. It was only an altitude of circa 60 feet. Very low. Well, you can't see nothing if you fly too high, can you? 60 feet, about 18 meters then. Thank you for your introductions. Now you will give your formal testimony for the court. You only did German for 1 year. I did German for 5 years. German's one of my GCSEs actually. But I have a better grounding in French because I visited that country more often. I think. Well, I think I have a better grounding in it, not I think I visited it more often, because I've definitely visited it more often. Kindly describe exactly what you witnessed, especially those of you who had a vantage point above the stage. The view from 60 feet up. It was an incident terrible. I am only grateful that my balloons were not damaged. There's this huge bang from the stage, and the next second another bang from the sky beside us. Ah. I thought that piece of exploded cloth we had was from a balloon. And from amidst the smoke, a cage appeared out of nowhere. In the cage, it fell from the sky like a stone and crashed into the crystal tower. I didn't get a good look inside the cage, but no one went near it after it crashed into the tower. This set of witnesses is a right menagerie of accents. The balloon guy is clearly French. The small child is German. And then we've got Gina's Cockney. Could I just clarify something? There's a detail in the witness's testimony that I've not heard any mention of until now. The explosion in the sky? Specifically that there were 2 explosions? More precisely, 2 explosions in 2 separate places, yes. When the demonstration began, the balloon carrying the 2 witnesses was around here. There were other balloons in the air nearby at the time, carrying other passengers as well, to be clear. Then, as power was supplied to the machine for the demonstration, the first explosion occurred. The so-called bird cage that had contained the victim disappeared from the stage, and a moment later, the second explosion occurred directly adjacent to the balloon carrying the witnesses. And apparently, like, right on top of another balloon, but the bird cage appeared at the site of the explosion and subsequently to plummet down to the crystal tower. I was very surprised. Suddenly a cage appeared before my eyes with a person inside. The blast was so hot, but I didn't want to miss a thing, so I kept my eyes wide. Oh, he's going to buy another balloon because he... So, there's one helium balloon up in the roof of the courtroom now. I still have lots of money. Precisely who is this curious infant? I am told he is a young noble of Bohemian royalty. Apparently he disguised himself in order to steal unnoticed into the Great Exhibition. Is that what the mask is about? Yeah, I am in London on a sightseeing trip with my elementary school. We will have the benefit of a child's point of view in the testimony. Do we really need that? We've also got a child on the jury too. Then I remove my mask. This is what I look like. Ah, yes, I see. A delightful face, I'm sure. Yeah, everybody says so. Great disguise, then. The point is, the testimony of these witnesses further substantiates the facts for the court. Namely, that despite ending in an explosion, instantaneous kinesis was successfully demonstrated. And furthermore, that until the arrival of the police, no one approached the Crystal Tower where the victim fell. Yeah, but what if there was someone already in the tower? Therefore, only the accused, who was with Mr. Asman on the stage, could possibly have committed the murder. Yes, thank you, counsel. The prosecution's views on the matter are quite clear. So the defence's cross-examination now, please. Yes, my lord. Alright. I'm still very concerned about the flame in that man's hat. Because, like, you don't have the fire the whole time on a hot air balloon anyway, right? What if someone shot a bolt at him from inside a balloon? But the crossbow was found very nicely hidden. I suppose once the person got down to the ground, they could have then hidden the crossbow. I don't know.
Hold it!
There were 3 balloons flying above the experimentation stage at the time, I understand. See, all 3 of them Oh, no! No, I take it back. I take it back. He may not be French. He may be Italian. How do I do Italian? See, all 3 of them, my bellissimo bambini. They are very popular, signor. Some people will even pay £10 for one ride. I don't think I can do a very good Italian. £10? That's more than my annual stipend. £20 a month. That is my pocket money. I don't like the rich kid. Royals have all the luck. I got up there for free, I did. Played the old I work for Her Majesty's Police card, you know. Detectives have all the luck. If they're so popular, why would you only be operating such a small number of balloons, though? Probably because they're expensive to maintain, and I guess he probably doesn't have that many people who can fly them. Because if I have one too many in the skies, they could crash into each other. Okay, all that. The operators of the balloons were decided by lots, with each operator manning a particular area. See, and the zone above the public experimentation stage is the most profitable. The The other impresarios, they hate me. Thank you, witness. I think the court has a clear picture of the arrangements for balloon rides in the exhibition. Perhaps you could hear more about what you actually witnessed of the incident. Right, I can fill you in there, my lord. I'm not doing Gina's voice quite right today.
Hold it!
So you actually saw the accident happen from up in the air? Yep. Isn't it amazing what a detective gets to do, eh? I'm telling you, Otto, being a lawyer's a mad game. You should join the force and then we can go flying together. You know me so well. Yes, well, anyway, could you tell us exactly what you saw, do you think? Everything! We saw everything because we was up above it all. That dodgy cove climbing into that cage and that dodgy professor pulling all them levers. And that's when it happened. That's when there was that massive bang and the cage disappeared. Just like that. See? Gina didn't see the professor stab him. You are describing the moment when the subject's body was decomposed by the electricity, I believe. The only likeable person on the witness stand is Gina. Yeah. Because we love Gina. I didn't know what to make of it, but then there was another bang right in my ear. I looked round and there was this huge great fireball right next to us in the sky. And there was nothing there before. I'll let Gina finish and then I'll come back around to it. For that pursuit. What appears out of the flames? The cage, that's what. Yeah, I don't think there was nothing in that area before. I think there was a balloon. And that description sounds like the moment after the man was beamed instantaneously through space. It's mind-blowing, isn't it? That's the 20th century for you, I reckon. So the people who actually saw the demonstration with their own eyes really believe they saw something miraculous taking place. Right. Anyway, we're gonna press Gina again.
Hold it!
So that we can go do the pursuit onto the rich kid.
That's Peter.
Excuse me!
Master Gotts, does your memory of the day differ? My teacher at elementary school said that when you meet someone for the first time, you should always use their full name. Yes, what was it again? Wilhelm Gottfried Sigismund Ormstein. I would have gone with his surname of Ormstein. Why are we going with Gotts? Just the four names then. The point is, do you have something to say? Something to add in response to Detective Gina Lestrade's last remark, perhaps? Oh, I get it right, Otto. It's Inspector Lestrade. Why does everyone have a problem with how I address them at the moment? Hey, Van Zieks was the one who called you a detective. Take it up with him. That is not what I saw. Oh? Yeah, there was a second explosion and it was right beside our balloons, that is true. But I'm sure, which is what I said, innit? 1 minute there was nothing there, next a massive explosion. My teacher at elementary school said that when someone else is speaking, if you are rude enough to interrupt, you will have the most awful life imaginable. Are all Bohemians brought up to be so full of joy? Oh, we need to buy. There are 2 helium balloons in the roof. Hey, his balloons are auto refilling. He had 4, he handed this guy 1, he only had 3, and now it's 4 again. You didn't try spin-offs for Craigs and Gina, Shomes, and Hyrax. Yeah, that could be fun. Just before the second explosion happened next to our balloon, I clearly witnessed a green balloon flying in the sky. Yep, we have a piece of that green balloon, but what's how did the explosion? A green balloon? You what? I never saw nothing like that. Well, I did. I saw it, and you can't say I didn't. I will complain to the council. I will cry and scream. My testimony is the truth. I am Bohemian Prince. You cannot say it's a lie. That is not allowed. Playing the bleeding royalty card, are you? Typical. I mean, I trust that he saw a green balloon because I have a piece of it. So, what if? So, the explosion on the stage was to hide the birdcage dropping below the stage and therefore disappearing, and there was an identical birdcage in a balloon up above the Crystal Tower, the second explosion of which was in order to suddenly make the second birdcage appear in midair to fall. It's just a case of misdirection for the crowd. In order to make it appear like the instantaneous transmission actually happened. Anyway, says the orphan who likes to remind people she works for Her Majesty's police. In that case, young man, I must ask you to amend your formal testimony. In the interests of cordial national relations between Great Britain and Bohemia, yeah, I mean, I don't think we would have been shown Madame Two-Spell's place if it wasn't of relevance in this case. It was not the sky that exploded. It was a green balloon that was next to ours at the time.
Hold it!
A green balloon, you say? Are you sure about that? Of course I am sure. I am proud Bohemian Prince. All these questions are making me boring. I noticed that the pursuit thing is like higher up on the screen with him, because if it was in its normal place, it'd be covering his face. Yes, the magician drawer is I think going to be relevant for the sleight of hand and misdirection. I think you mean bored. Eck, English is very annoying. The language of my countrymen is far superior. English is probably very annoying to learn, yes. Ragazzo, it is very wrong to lie. Lie? Flying balloons never explode, for the same reason the planets never explode. It is logical. Flying balloons never explode, huh? I can think of at least several, probably, but one in very particular. I mean, I guess it wasn't a hot air balloon, it was a zeppelin that I'm thinking of, but it's still the same principle. So, them exploding can happen. Please tell me that doesn't mean logical. If you insult me, you insult all of Bohemia. Might die. I will have the army come and shoot all of your stupid balloons out of the sky. All of them. Yeah, that's a point. Dutch does seem to be very similar to English. Yeah, you were also thinking of the Hindenburg. Yep. So, what if the crossbow was not for shooting the guy, but was for shooting the hot air balloon? Theory. Here you are, Your Highness. If only all international incidents were so easily resolved. Now that peaceful relations have been restored here in the courtroom, perhaps we could continue to the testimony? Did you also see the moment the cage materialized, Mr. Loon? No, I did not see the explosion myself. However,
Hold it!
did you see that actually happen? No. In reality, I did not. I saw after it hit the tower. There was a grand confusion around the stage. I ran to see what had happened. I was terrorized by the idea that one of my balloons had crashed. I suppose they are his livelihood. But when I looked up into the sky, all my precious balloons were still there. So what you're implying is that the balloon that exploded was not yours. And yet it was in your airspace. I saw it there. I saw it slam into the tower. After all, I am a detective now. Then tell us what you saw, Inspector Lestrade. That's what I like to hear.
Hold it!
Was it you who gave the order to keep people away? And I did hear that order. How could it have been me? I was up in a balloon, weren't I? Right. So because I weren't available, it was the boss who had to leg it over there. He was getting shoved and kicked all over by panicking spectators as he tried to seal off the scene. It was a real sight to behold, I can tell you. Amazing. Poor Inspector Gregson. So anyway, I couldn't see the cage. I couldn't see the cage that well because of all the smoke. And I didn't really want to see, to be honest. I was scared out my wits. Keep it together, Inspector. The prosecution really is asserting that the demonstration was genuine. What if it was actually some kind of switch-around trick instead? That would mean that the victim was never actually on the stage in the first place. But we saw him sort of make a grand spectacle of himself. The two explosions would have thrown everyone watching into a panic for sure. I think I need to find out more about what exactly people saw at the time. Okay, so I think what we want to do now is present to this one about the green balloon my piece of a green balloon.
Objection!
Nope, that's a failure. The defence would like to object to that last statement, my lord. And I would have to overrule your objection, counsel. The defence would have to accept the penalty given. Glad to hear it. And you would have to think again. Okay, so that's not it. So what do I have? I have an armband, which is not going to help me. The newspaper, which is the same newspaper that guy in the jury has. Wait, we have something on the back that's to read again. The Reaper attacked. It's the kingpins of the criminal underworld generally managing to escape conviction at the Reaper's trials. And this isn't the first time their henchmen have tried to attack Lord Van Zieks as a result, by the sounds of it. It makes you think, if that's how the justice system works in London, then there must be dark forces at work. Okay. Yeah, this isn't going to help us really. We've got an article about just a thing about the Crystal Tower. Something about the Industrial Revolution. I don't think this is going to help us. Sketch of the experiment, which seems to be missing a balloon. Why are we seeing it crash down? Because I thought we saw the gap like here. I don't know. The piece of green cloth, which we have investigated, and I guess is from the green balloon. The crossbow, which let's just this button and open it out into the crossbow. There we go. Again. The crossbow. Which has got to be important, but we don't have anything to use it with right yet. The photograph of the victim. The autopsy report, which I don't think is going to help us, and the screwdriver, which I don't think is going to help us. Right, so we've got... I'm only grateful that my balloons were not damaged. What if I present the bit of a balloon here? What else? Because it's clearly not useful on this one, even though this seems to be the most obvious one to use it on. No one went. We've pressed all the things, so all that's left is to present something. So yeah, let's try it here.
Objection!
Ah, this one works. Mr. Loon, in your testimony, you said that all 3 of the balloons you had operating at the time were undamaged. See, that is correct. If they had been caught in the explosions, it would have been terrible. I wonder if you might know what this is. Ah, I think it may be... See, part of a balloon. A burnt piece of the fabric of the envelope. Sorry, the envelope. Pardon, that is a large round part of the balloon which becomes filled with hot air. It is made from very thick fabric lined with rubber. You do not want it to rip when you are in the sky. Just as I thought. This piece of cloth was found near the experimentation stage. In other words, as Master Gotts testified, a green balloon did indeed explode that day. Eh? If all the balloons in the sky above the experimentation stage belonged to you, Mr. Loon, Then your statement that they were all undamaged clearly contradicts the evidence. No! Oh no! There's no more helium balloons. If a balloon exploded that day, why didn't the man say so? Maybe everyone on board was killed. Oh no, having just spent 10 whole pounds for the experience, how awful. Seems to me like those things crash 50% of the time anyway.
Objection!
The instantaneous kinesis did occur, but after the explosion on the stage, the point of materialization shifted to a location occupied by a balloon. Causing the balloon to explode? Yes, eminently plausible. An unfortunate traffic accident, as it were, but it changes nothing about the pertinent facts. This I cannot accept! Why not, Mr. Loon? You are suggesting that I am a liar! That person's died in a balloon incident! There's no need to get fired up, Mr. Loon. The victim was the sole fatality that day. That's right, and I prove it! Balthazar Loon is not a liar! There was no such balloon in the sky. It is non-possible. Possible. No, that's French. I don't know Italian at all. It is non-possible. You're saying it's impossible? Why? This court has more important matters to discuss than the number of balloons that were operating that day. No fancy, I think you're going to find that the number of balloons that were operating that day is very, very important.
Objection!
But we can't ignore the fact that nobody appears to have known anything about this other balloon until now. My lord, the defense calls for further testimony from Mr. Loon. I concur. There is clearly more to the truth here than meets the eye. It's imperative that we clear up the issue of this phantom balloon, I feel. Witness, you will give supplementary testimony about the balloons you were operating at the exhibition. Yeah, grazie, my lord. Mr. Loon's balloons. As I said, Balthazar Loon is no liar. Every balloon I had in the sky landed safely. All 3 of my balloons were carrying passengers. If they fell to the ground in an explosion, what a catastrophe! But you can't get away from the fact that a burned up bit of cloth was found at the scene, can ya? Coppers at the yard reckoned it was probably some debris thrown from the explosion on the stage. This stupido ragazzo is mistaken. My balloons have the the red and blue zigzag stripes anyway. Like his hat and like the helium balloons he's holding. Which also appear to be back after him exploding them earlier. So your assertion is that the balloon this child saw was not one belonging to you? Si, exactamente! If he ever even saw a balloon in the first place. I do not like the sound of it. It is very bad for business. I have a good mind to sue the land of Bohemia. If you attack us, we will fight back. It will be war, all out war. What happened to all out war? Mr. Loon certainly doesn't appear to be lying. But that doesn't change the fact that the testimony and the evidence are contradictory here. If the defense is unable to find fault with the witnesses' statements, the court must consider them the truth. Think long and hard on that, my learned friend. The situation has clearly changed now. We have to get to the bottom of what happened here, no matter what it takes. Counsel, you may now cross-examine the witnesses. Cross-examination of Mr. Loon's balloons. couldn't just have forgotten one, maybe? Signor, I might not notice if I was given 100 lentils and one was missing. But we are talking about 3 enormous balloons. Do you believe I could make a mistake out about something so grand and expensive? I took the liberty of having Inspector Gregson check this gentleman's warehouse. I have the report here. It clearly says a total of 3 balloons. It would appear no mistake has been made, then. Surely Miss Lestrade could have been sent for such a menial task. What, me? I'll tell you what I told the boss. East End kids like me can only count up to 2. Obviously that ain't true, but the boss bought it and said he'd have to go himself in that case. poor Inspector Gregson.
Hold it!
It would be quite a catastrophe if they fell to the ground for any reason, I think. On that note, Mr. Loon, tell me, what is it that keeps those balloons in the sky? Are you an idiota? Sorry? That is like asking why does a candle burn bright? It burns bright because it burns bright, and a balloon flies because it flies. What else? You'd expect someone operating a hot air balloon to know how the hot air balloon works. I don't think I would want to go in a hot air balloon that was operated by someone who didn't know how they worked. That must be Italian for I don't know. There are 2 types of flying balloons, hot air balloons and gas balloons. Oh, I guess gas balloons would be more likely to explode, actually. Because they're gas. Hot air balloons work on the principle of hot air being less dense than cold air. Whereas gas balloons derive their lift from using a gas that is lighter than air. See, and my balloons are filled with the magic gas, I believe. Yours are gas balloons? Then why is your hat a hot air balloon? And why did you claim your balloons can't explode if they're filled with... if they're gas ones? They're gas ones, of course they can explode. Hydrogen. Lighter than air, but highly explosive. Good lord. I do not permit the smoking of the cigarettes in any of my balloons. The magic gas does not like fire. Why does it have fire in it? Even a small spark of static electricity could cause the entire balloon to explode. I remember playing with balloons filled with hydrogen at school. It was not like a part of the curriculum. It was something it was something our teacher let us do on the last day of the year. Just filling these balloons with making a chemical reaction to create hydrogen. I think it was hydrogen. Was it hydrogen? Filling little balloons with it, tying them off, tying like a wick to them, sticking them to the ceiling. And then lighting the wick. And then when the fire gets up there, it explodes. We did singe the ceiling. Actually, was it hydrogen or was it something else? It was an explosive gas anyway. So it was a lot of fun. What is the matter with you, Signor? All that comes out of your mind is explosion, explosion. I tell you, my balloons are perfectly safe. They have to be, or I cannot eat. None of my balloons exploded that day. I am completely sure. But if you still say this is what happened, you must show me the proof. Alright, so Mr. Loon had 3 balloons in the air that day. If none of them were damaged, then what was the one that exploded? You had to clean the classroom on the last days. We got to do fun stuff. and it was a half day. I don't think we ever did any serious work on the last half day of school. I was surprised to find the piece of fabric still at the scene, actually. Didn't you search the area surrounding the stage for clues? Nah, I'm not into picking stuff up off the ground, me. Always works out way better diving into people's pockets instead. So much for the new career path. Mind you, the boss was on his hands and knees picking up all kinds of rubbish from the floor. Thing is though, the cage went crashing into the crystal tower, didn't it? So that's when most of the investigating was going on. Even so, I would have thought someone from Scotland Yard would have gathered it up as evidence. You know, that and the freaking crossbow! Cool, listen to you! You stumble across a bit of balloon and suddenly you're the best investigator in the world. I am a good investigator, Gina. I thought we were friends, Gina. Pardon? Well, you ain't got a badge, have you? Like this one. I could arrest you with this if I wanted to. I wouldn't put it past her. Come to think of it, there was some talk of some scorching on the ground at a meeting we had about the investigation. There was considerable damage to the stage and surrounding area, wasn't there? Yeah, some of the coves what were watching the experiment were caught in the blast and injured. Good job the old contraption didn't keel over, eh? I hadn't even considered that. It seems there was great panic after the incident occurred. Nevertheless, the police shouldn't have missed a torn piece of the envelope from a balloon. Inspector Gregson can expect repercussions. Hey, if that's what you're saying for them missing a piece of balloon, what are you gonna say when I show you this crossbow? Like me swiping all his fish and chips, eh? And sole pleasure. None of this matters. That scrap of balloon envelope means nothing. Niente. You mean the colour is wrong? Si, signor. I do not have any green balloons in my warehouse. And yet a piece of green cloth was found at the scene, and it's unmistakably from a balloon. Well, I do not know how that can be. For the sake of argument, let's say that a green balloon did explode above the stage. You couldn't therefore conclude that it happened on the day in question. Why not? I have someone who says they saw a green balloon explode. There have been recreational balloon flights over Hyde Park operating from before the Great Exhibition. One could have exploded on some earlier date. Unfortunate, as I'm sure you'd agree. You believe it may have been from some earlier balloon incident that predates the exhibition? Van Zeke, so are you saying that the people who are responsible for cleaning in Hyde Park missed something like that? Exactement! As the signor says, it is not from one of my balloons. Clearly, this little ragazzo from Bohemia is mistaken about what he saw. We'll pursue that in a sec, once we've seen the rest of what this guy has to say. If you come to my warehouse, you will see my 3 bellissimi balloons, all present and correct. I've already verified Mr. Loon's annual business reports, and he's had the same number of balloons for a year now. Well, as thorough as ever, Lord Van Zeeks, and disarmingly so. In that case, is the young boy just imagining things? As I thought, Mr. Loon's testimony just doesn't quite add up. The young Bohemian boy claims to have seen another 4th balloon. Mr. Loon vehemently denies the possibility. And it's hard to imagine the man in charge could be mistaken about the number that were in the air. Still, this inconsistency must tell us something, I'm sure. Anyway, we'll go back to that one. Ha! By balloon boy you mean Loon. I'm glad you clarified, because there are 2 people that balloon boy could be. Anyway,
Excuse me.
Is something wrong, Master Gotts? It's Master Wilhelm Gottfried Sigismund Ornstein. It was on the tip of my tongue. Yeah, something is very wrong. I know what I saw. There was a green balloon there. I swear it. I swear all over Bohemia. You can speak as much bad language as you like, but it changes nothing. Oh, we're buying another balloon. If you do not have evidence, ragazzo, then I must tell your parents to punish you, eh? Perhaps we'll let the judge decide when it comes to punishments. Evidence? What is evidence? To give a simple example, young man. A photograph, for instance, some tangible proof of what you claim. Well, why didn't you say so sooner? I have the photograph here. Good gracious! What? I had not been up in a balloon wow. I had not been up in a balloon for a little while, so I was very excited. I took lots and lots of photographs. Of the Crystal Tower, of the Bohemian exhibit, of the streets of London, of the hot eel cellar, the balloon. And the instantaneous kinesis experiment? Did you take a picture of that? Yeah, one picture. Really? You did take one? Pictures. But all I wanted was a ride in a balloon. I was not interested in boring experiments. Never mind that, can you show us that photograph? Of course, and then you will see. You will see that I am not lying. So I really did see a green balloon. It's black and white. Well, I see you're all too shocked to speak. Yes, I think shocked is indeed the word, young man. Yeah, perhaps you cannot see that it was a green balloon from this photograph, but that is not my fault! That is the fault of the stupid person who made the camera! Wah! Wah! That is one very Bohemian-sounding cry. Wah! Wah! Very well. The court will accept this photograph as evidence. The photograph of the balloon has been entered into the court record. Photograph taken by Gotts while he was riding in a balloon. It shows another balloon that he claims was green and exploded moments after he took the shot. It's not my fault. It's the fault of the person who made the camera. Anyway, I'm going to look at that picture now. Wait, there isn't anyone in that balloon. The balloon is empty. Oh yeah, I can see it's a gas type balloon because it doesn't have the. Yeah, it's like completely round, and whereas a hot air balloon is kind of tapered, right? Why is there no one in this balloon? So we clearly have the professor working here, and we clearly have the person in the thing. Yeah, he did say his balloons had a pattern. You can clearly see a lot of smoke. Coming specifically out of specific exhausts, I see. And... okay, that's a person running. That's a lady in a hat. Lots of gents in top hats. Oh, there's someone over here as well. Oh, and there's a spear of light coming up from the ground. Well, never mind. I'm sure you have plenty of wonderful sepia memories to take home with you. In any case, when exactly did you take that photograph? Well, it was on the day of the big explosion. You don't say. When I pressed the shutter release, there was this very loud bang, and a hot wind rushed over my face. That means this photograph was taken a split second before the explosion occurred. Well, if you ask me, this black and white photograph changes nothing. I could not give the flying fig. Lovely language you've picked up. As I thought, Mr. Loon's testimony just doesn't quite add up. The young Bohemian boy, yeah, this was the thing that we had earlier. Okay, so now what? Every balloon he had in the sky landed safely. All three of his balloons were carrying the... right. This is not carrying a passenger. Present. Unfortunately, the photograph Master Gotts took can't tell us the colour of the balloon. But it can tell us something else. Something crucially important. What? It shows that the pictured balloon wasn't carrying any passengers. Ah, my goodness, you're right. But surely all the balloons would have been carrying passengers. There would have been no sense in it otherwise. See, they are for pleasure, for seeing the view. My balloons only fly with passengers. Also, shouldn't there have been an operator, or do you not need an operator on gas balloons? I know you need them on a hot air balloon. Because they've got to judge when to reheat the air and stuff, right? How do you bring the gas balloons down, anyway? Which tells us that the pictured balloon isn't one of them. So when the incident occurred that day, there was a fourth balloon in the skies above the experimentation stage. Yeah, I'm guessing that these balloons are just tied to a rope with like a winch or something to bring them down and up, I guess. I guess that helps with them not like floating off and hitting into things. The mysterious green balloon. Hey, I know nothing! Niente! I can only tell you one thing. If this balloon was not carrying passengers, then it was not one of mine.
Objection!
There are illegal tradesmen everywhere you care to look. Clearly, one such entrepreneur decided to capitalize on the opportunity presented by the Great Exhibition, and managed to operate balloon flights on Mr. Loon's patch without him realizing. See, the competition! Trying to steal my profits! I did not notice because of the experimento that went wrong on the stage. This fourth balloon exploded at the very same moment Mr. Asman was beamed from the stage below. Yeah, bad entrepreneur with not one passenger. Right, so them scraps that fell to the ground after and left them scorch marks, they didn't come from the stage at all. It was bits of the balloon raining down. Because no one was in it, it didn't get no attention. A mysterious fourth balloon carrying no passengers, silently floating over the experimentation stage.
Objection!
This photograph shows us nothing more. A stray balloon carrying no one and operated by some rogue trader. Clearly it has nothing to do with the case. Its relevance does elude me, I must say. The court has seen sufficient evidence and heard ample testimony already. The prosecution calls for this trial to be concluded. Really? Have we really got to the truth yet? No, I can't let this opportunity slip away. The jurors' minds are made up, not in our favour. What else can this photograph tell us? Is there nothing more we can learn from it? There is more.
Objection!
Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, wait. Please don't give your decisions yet. This photograph from Master Gotts may well be hiding one more vital clue. What's that? A vital clue?
Objection!
We're well past the point of mere possibilities. It's time for definitives now, so tell the court. What exactly does this alleged clue in the photograph prove? The cause of the explosion? That little streak of light. We can reasonably assume the pictured balloon was destroyed in the searing heat of the explosion. Yeah, that's right, yeah, it was not my fault. Evidently. Because the birdcage from the kinesis machine materialized in the sky where it had been flying. And the balloon, being filled with flammable hydrogen, instantly and explosively ignited. I mean, at that point you'd expect there to be burn marks on the body, you Banzeeks, but sure.
Objection!
No, that's not what happened. What? It would appear that this photograph requires closer examination. Counsel for the defense, you will highlight the location of this alleged clue in the photograph for the court. Of course, my lord. If you look closely, it's plain enough to see. And what's shown is linked to another piece of evidence we have, the crossbow, in a way that leads to an unbelievable conclusion. The clue that heavily suggests the real reason the balloon exploded is... there.
Take that!
The timing of this photograph can only be described as miraculous. If you look, you'll notice there's a bright white line that appears to point directly at the balloon. Most likely a ray of light caught incidentally on the film. I'm afraid I can see nothing of the sort. If you look with a magnifying glass, my lord, it becomes clear what the nature of this bright line really is. Goodness, what is that? Also, it can't be coming from the experimental beaming apparatus because it's on the wrong angle. Undeniably some flash of light, yes. Why is the magician dropping his cards on the floor? Oh, Collie, do you think it might be lightning? But it couldn't have been a finer day. I believe we may be looking at fire. Oh, a flaming arrow shot out of a shot out of a crossbow. A bolt of light heading straight for the balloon. A bolt of fire heading straight for the balloon, like an arrow. Indeed, even to my aging eyes, it would appear to be a flame of some sort. My word, are you suggesting that this flame struck the hydrogen gas that filled the balloon?
Objection!
That's absurd. The balloon would have been 60 feet above the ground at the time. No flame could possibly have reached such a height.
Objection!
Actually, it's my opinion that a particular piece of evidence found at the scene reveals how that is exactly what did happen. What evidence? Yeah, I'm not sure why we can just reveal evidence in the middle of a thing without, like, showing it to people, but, you know. If such evidence exists, Council, then for goodness sake present it, man! Which evidence explains this mysterious streak of flame that appears to be headed directly to the balloon?
Take that!
This was found hidden at the foot of a small ornamental tree near the scene. Good lord, is that a crossbow? An arrow dipped in oil and set alight could have been shot from this weapon, sending a flaming arrow straight into the hydrogen-filled balloon. Yeah, but I mean, things that we just picked up at the scene and didn't provide any evidence that they were actually from the scene. I don't know. Are you suggesting that crossbow was used to deliberately... Blimey, you're right. The streak of light in the photo looks just like an arrow, doesn't it? Then the explosion of the balloon, it was... very likely the result of a flaming arrow from this crossbow igniting the hydrogen gas inside it. No! That was a very fancy no animation from Van Zeeks right there. Order, order! Council, this is an extraordinary supposition. If the aim was to cause the balloon to explode, the shooter could have used a gun, of course. However, there's an obvious reason why that would have been out of the question, because it would have made too much noise. And the noise of the discharge, of course. That's right. By using a crossbow, the projectile could be fired at the balloon silently, or relatively silently. Well, yeah, if someone had shot a gun off at the exhibition grounds, it would have caused a real panic. But with the big explosion, there was a very big panic anyway, no? I don't like this. I should be pleased to have found a plausible new explanation for all this, but something feels wrong.
Objection!
Do you understand the implications of what you're saying, my Nipponese friend? If a flaming arrow did indeed hit the balloon, then obviously it would have exploded. And if the birdcage appeared from the cloud of smoke that ensued... What? Wait a minute! What are you really saying here? I don't get it. Was the birdcage beamed up in the sky after all? Or what? My goodness me! Ah, now I understand. That's what that sinking feeling is about. I think there's a good chance that the birdcage was actually concealed inside the balloon all along. What? Did I just hear that correctly, Council? There's no going back now. The horse is bolted. Let's assume, as I said, that the birdcage was hidden inside the green balloon from the start. On stage, when the experiment was started, the birdcage and the instantaneous kinesis machine disappeared in a cloud of smoke. At that moment, the flaming arrow was fired from the ground, causing the green balloon to explode and drawing the attention of the spectators to the sky above their heads. From amid the smoke, the hidden birdcage then appeared. It then appeared to fall down and crash into the crystal tower. I wonder if he was stabbed by the flaming arrow as it came through, as well. I think you'll all agree it's entirely plausible. That what I've just described is the real truth behind the miraculous experiment carried out that day. But this... Good grief!
Objection!
This is ludicrous. What you've described is no science experiment. Yes, it is in fact a magic trick. It's child's play, a contemptible display of stage magic. I'm not sure you should be disparaging stage magic right now when one of your jurors is a stage magician. Both Mr. Sholmes and Iris said the experiment was a scientific impossibility. In which case, this is the only way to explain what happened that day. And in any case, the victim's body was found inside the birdcage in the Crystal Tower. If the instantaneous kinesis did not take place, how do you explain that? If I may put in a word, as a man of magic myself, such apparent discrepancies can easily be explained by some simple deception. Juror number 3? All that would be needed is a doppelganger, someone who looked very similar to the victim, Mr. Asman. And having this other man appear on stage to front the show as a body double. Ah, yes, of course. So in fact, Mr. Asman must have been inside the birdcage that was concealed inside the balloon right from the start. Small question here. If Mr. Asman was inside the birdcage, inside the balloon, and I mean specifically inside the envelope of the balloon, he was definitely already dead. Because that balloon was filled with hydrogen, and therefore there wasn't any oxygen for him to breathe. And if he was alive in there, he would have asphyxiated. Which suggests that he was stabbed and was already dead at the point at which they hid him in the balloon. Because otherwise, I feel like the coroner would have found the asphyxiation.
Objection!
That balloon would have been filled with hydrogen. Anything hidden inside it would have been scattered to the four winds when it exploded. No one would ever have embarked on such a risky venture. I mean, I was assuming that the birdcage was in the basket, but we can see inside the basket on here, can't we? Not quite. There could be a thing inside the bottom of the basket. Not necessarily. The explosive force of the balloon gas would very much depend on the mixture ratio. Juror number 4. Flying balloons are rarely filled with pure hydrogen, but a mixture of other gases such as helium as well. Helium on its own doesn't explode, but by controlling the gas mixture ratio, the explosive force can be altered. The mixture ratio? Obviously, the victim's body would have suffered some burns, so that would be unavoidable. The thing is, the victim's body didn't have any burns. Which is the problem with that theory. He looks perfectly fine. But not to such an extent as to render this whole obscene charade impossible. So everything that happened can be explained, logically and scientifically. The explosion that engulfed the stage at the start of the experiment was no accident. It was all part of an elaborate deception, to make it appear that the instantaneous kinesis had occurred. Well, goodness me. And if we accept that this is what happened, it means that the victim, Mr. Asman, was never present on the public experimentation stage to begin with. In short, he couldn't have been killed by the defendant who was on stage in full view the entire time. Except that he could have been killed in advance, but never mind. This will be very hard for the prosecution to counter. I mean, I already countered it, but hey. Lord Van Zieks can't credibly maintain that Professor Harebrain is a suspect now. Except that he can. Mr. Naruhodo, I appreciate your efforts, thank you. Professor, no! But you can stop now. Just keep your mouth shut, please. Sorry? What's all this about, Mr. Harebrain? I, Albert Harebrain, hereby confess that it was me who stabbed Mr. Odi Asman. Yes, it was me, with my faithful friend and partner, Andrew the Screwdriver. What? What are you doing? Order! 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 Defendant, explain this sudden confession.
Objection!
Professor Harebrain, what are you talking about? It's what I've said all along. I must protect my hypothesis and my precious machine. Yeah, who is he protecting? Stand there and claim it was all a trick, all an elaborate prank. But where's your proof? No, you'd have to examine the machine if you wanted to prove it, but then it would all be over. My beautiful hypothesis would be laid bare. I mean, the indignity of it. It's clear that you drew the plans for the experiment, but you didn't actually build it. It's quite conceivable that you were duped, Professor. If you just let me, I can prove. Baroque! Yes. I'll cooperate, I'll do whatever you say. I swear it. So please, ensure the special dispensation for scientific equipment act is adhered to and protect my creation. Nope, you're driving him to drink again. Pray forgive the discourtesy of filling my hallowed chalice at this critical juncture. Here's to my learned Nepalese friend. What? And his upcoming attempt to clarify the defense's position in light of the accused's confession. Do you intend to formally assert that the experiment was nothing more than a conjuring trick? Actually, yes, I do. Because the moment you do, the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act that protects the professor's invention will cease to apply. The prosecution will then demand a rigorous examination of the machinery involved in order to establish the truth. However, if you acknowledge that the machine is genuine and instrumental in the victim's murder, goodbye, Chalice. Any chance of investigating will be crushed. Did you just break that chalice also for a pun? And the confidentiality of the professor's hypothesis preserved. Well, counsel, what is the defense's official position on this matter? Well, Professor Harebrain, my client, actually asked of me was to prove that the explosion on stage was an accident and protect the secrecy of his hypothesis. But there's no way to do that without implying the professor's guilt. Do I protect my client's life by asserting his innocence, or do I uphold my client's request but see him condemned? Either way, I can't avoid betraying his trust. You've been silent long enough. Isn't talking your trade, my learned friend? Or has all knowledge of English escaped your confused Nipponese mind? Mr. Naruhodo! There's no escape here. I have to make a choice. But it's an impossible one. I have to give up on something. But what? The defense asserts that the defendant's instantaneous kinesis machine was in fact saving. What do I choose? My entire theory, Naruhodo's entire theory as well, is that it was a conjuring trick. But that's not what my client asked me to prove. But also, if it isn't a conjuring trick, then he killed the man. You can't see it, but every time I've brought up that it potentially being a conjuring trick, I've been messing with this coin. Heads. It's a conjuring trick. But then again, coin can be fooled. I want to go with a conjuring trick. Because that was my theory, myself. So... sorry, Hairbrain. No, I can't say it. My client placed his faith in me. I can't just let him down. What must I give up on is not the question you have to ask yourself here. It's what can I protect? It was Susato-san. I was guessing it was Susato. That was what Iris was doing. I was right. I was right. Hello again, Mr. Naruhodo. It's been far too long. Susato-san! But what are you? Hey. Oh. Just a second. We've got something we need to do, huh? Throw count. Let's put the throw count back up on the screen. And it's now 11. My first Susato takedown in 6 months. There'll be time to talk later, Mr. Naruhodo. For now, I must concentrate on the task at hand. Which is working out not what I have to give up on, but what I can protect. Professor Hairbrain. Yes? Yesterday you told me that science is the pursuit of truth. Well, my job is to pursue the truth too. Yes, of course! And personally, I believe that you didn't stab Mr. Asman. I think you've come to realize something yourself too, haven't you? That your experiment and the machine you built with the victim are questionable. The truth behind that is what we must both pursue now. Oh, goodbye, bottle. Straight into the public gallery. So, you finally opened your eyes. He's talking to Hairbrain. And as for you, Albert, you can't ignore this any longer. Having heard my learned friend's assertion, don't you have something to say? Baroque! Lord Van Zeeks. Gosh, I've never heard him speak that way before. In truth, there is one thing, something I've remembered that's of relevance. What? On the day it happened, just before I began the experiment, I saw a man near the stage. A man holding that crossbow. I beg your pardon? Professor! Did the man have any distinguishing features? What did he look like? Taller than me, and thinner than me, with straight hair, straighter and whiter than mine. Let me see, one less lens than me too, a monocle, a rather stylish black monocle. But one thing in particular will help positively identify the man. You see, I know him very well. After all, he's the engineer who built my invention. I knew the engineer was sus! What? He built the machine? That's right! Mr. Asman introduced him to me a year ago. He's a man by the name of Enoch Drebber. Enoch Drebber? Since this name seems to mean something to the street magician, that makes my theory a lot more watertight. Members of the sorry. Does this name mean something? Members of the jury seem flustered. Not a name any scientist wishes to hear. The man's an abomination. Not a name any conjurer wishes to hear either. Who on earth is he? I am afraid this isn't the first tale of this nature that I've heard in scientific circles in connection with that name. There's talk of other flamboyant experiments that turn out to be nothing but staged trickery in the end. Obviously, the rascal is after the government research grant money. When magicians are in need of money, I've heard of them resorting to these underhand tactics. Some acquaintances of mine with experience of such things have mentioned Enoch Drebber's name before. The man is both an engineer and a magician. Yes, we're dealing with an unparalleled confidence trickster here. That's Enoch Drebber for you! Well, I believe we're going to need to call him to the stand. So it's true then. My invention, my great machine, it was just a grand illusion? Considering what we've just heard about Mr. Drebber's character, I'm sorry to say that it sounds increasingly likely. Even though no one else believed it, I wanted to. I wanted to believe that machine would function exactly as my hypothesis predicted. Which is why you were so opposed to it being investigated, I presume. I knew that if the machine was examined in detail, its construction would give away my hypothesis. Obviously, I didn't want that to happen, but at the same time, I knew that if it were found to be nothing more than a trick, then a work of deception, then everything I'd worked towards, all my research, all my dreams, my whole life would be over. I was terrified at the prospect. So you really had no idea then, did you? About the true nature of the machine that was built, and the true nature of Mr. Drebber. I questioned anything. I didn't want to question it. It's entirely possible that Mr. Asman and Mr. Drebber were working together to use you as a means of fraudulently acquiring the research grant money. But at some point they must have stopped working together. When I announced my invention to the crowds that day, it was the finest moments of my career. I pulled all the levers and turned all the dials in exactly the way Drebber had described. When the smoke suddenly started billowing out, I panicked. I didn't know what was happening. But I really don't know how the whole illusion was made to work. I don't know anything anymore. Let me confirm one final point with you, Professor. Do you now consent to the prosecution submitting the necessary paperwork to release your invention from the protection afforded by the Special Dispensation for Scientific Equipment Act? Yes, please go ahead. I'm very sorry. It would appear that we shall have to suspend proceedings for the remainder of the day now. Lord Van Zieks. My lord? The court has newly been made aware of another party whose involvement in this matter is critical. Yes, Mr. Drebber. Gather information about this man. If possible, I should like him served with a subpoena. With pleasure, my lord. Now, counsel for the defense. Yes, my lord? When we reconvene, I shall be looking for one thing and one thing alone from you. Evidence that the defendant is innocent of the crime for which he presently stands accused. I understand. Good. In that case, this court is adjourned until tomorrow morning. (23rd of October, 1:36 p.m. The Old Bailey, Defendant's Antechamber. Mr. Naruhodo! Yes? I'm so sorry. I was wrong. You were right. I tricked you. You trusted me. I dragged you into my mess. Oh, how did it ever come to this? I'm so sorry. Did you really have no idea, Professor? About what Mr. Drebber was really up to, I mean? About what he was really constructing? Naturally. That machine was the embodiment of my hypothesis, of all my hopes and dreams. I have complete faith in it. Alright, in that case I won't say any more. Now, sadly the murder accusation against you still stands. We must do as much investigation as we can before the trial resumes tomorrow. Well, thank you for doing so much for me. You're not gonna help? I'm so sorry for arriving late this morning, Mr. Naruhodo. Arriving late? Didn't you receive my postcard? I wanted to let you know when I'd arrive. Postcard? What postcard? I hid it from you, Runo, so it would be a surprise. I knew it. Well, did it work? It was a surprise, alright, especially when she threw me to the ground. Oh, dear, I'm so sorry. I was just so happy to see you again that it sort of slipped out. Maybe we could stick to more traditional displays of emotion in future? Susie's train was late into London Victoria this morning, you see. But we made the coachman really whip the horses hard so she didn't miss the whole trial. I was watching from the gallery for a while, but in the end, I'm afraid I couldn't contain myself. Well, I'm glad you didn't. Oh? Having you at my side in court gives me the strength I need to win. So, I'm, delighted to see you back in London. Oh, you're too kind, Mr. Naruhodo. I'm delighted to be here. I hope I can continue to be of service to you. Of course. So, what's brought you back? Did Professor Mikotoba not protest? Leave all that conversation for when we're back at home, shall we? You know I've made one of my most special blends ever for this special occasion. Oh, Iris, how wonderful! I can't wait. Susato-san was back in London. It's hard to describe how happy that made me feel at the time, but despite my elation, our tale was about to take yet another extraordinary turn. To be continued. Next time, since now seems to be a very good point to end this stream. So, thank you very much for coming. It's been fun. If you're new here and you've enjoyed your time, please consider subscribing to the channel. You can also follow me on Twitter, which is where I post the stream schedule for the week. This was the last scheduled stream of this week, so there'll be a new schedule up later tonight or tomorrow. And once again, thanks for coming. And this is Kalla signing out. See ya. Bye bye.